Chapter 676. Immortal. The power of this sword is enough to destroy a cruiser. Someone looked at the star competition sword that was like a silver dragon in amazement, dazzled by it. The combined attack of 4 pinnacle powerhouses is too frightening. Even if Kang Tae-chu is an immortal, he won't be able to escape. When the Wudang 8 elders who were surrounding Jiang Tian saw this, their eyes were filled with shock, and a look of longing appeared on their faces. They had all reached the immortal state and were more powerful than Xiao Bin and Wang Chongyan. They were on par with Miyamoto Genichi. If they were in the mortal world, they would be on the same level as the head of state and enjoy all the glory and wealth. In order to find the secret of immortal ascension, they didn't want to leave the mountain and cultivate here. They were also very powerful, but at this moment, compared with the monstrous cultivation of the 4 people, they felt that they were far behind. Master, be careful. Only Tang Linglong covered her mouth with her hand. Her face turned pale and her heart almost jumped out of her throat. She was worried about Jiang Tian and regretted it. If she didn't think that she was smart, her master wouldn't have taken such a risk. It was too scary. Swoosh. Swoosh. Facing the cicada wing flying daggers coming from all directions, Jiang Tian only snorted coldly and let out a demonic dragon roar. Too many. Along with this shout, a vast golden true essence with Jiang Tian as the center surged out like raging waves crashing against the shore. This true essence was no longer in a gaseous state. Instead, it was viscous like golden liquid and heavy like gold. It was like a golden landslide had erupted, and it carried an aura of obliteration as it swept through the surroundings. Those flying daggers were instantly destroyed when they came in contact with the true essence. In the end, they exploded out of thin air. What? Gong Yile's body shook violently as he was hit by the true essence. He was so angry that he wanted to die. He quickly retreated 100 meters away. But in the end, he couldn't take it anymore. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. After breaking the flying daggers with a roar, Jiang Tian waved his right hand and slashed at the golden staff as if he was drawing a knife to cut water. Crack! Jiang Tian's dazzling golden light was 50 to 60 feet long. It was as thin as a thin thread, and it slashed towards the golden Buddhist staff. At this moment, the golden staff had already transformed into a 10-meter-long staff. It was like a Skanda Bodhisattva swinging down a Vajra staff, suppressing a group of demons and subduing a demon god. Even a tall building would be smashed to pieces. This Vajra pestle of Tantric Buddhism was unique and contained the power of faith. As the Buddhist scriptures revolved, it could continuously condense the energy of heaven and earth, increasing its power tenfold. It was comparable to an immortal spell. Wuchen relied on this lost art to move unhindered in the Tibetan area for decades. He cut the path, robbed, and specialized in killing martial artists and warlocks. He was always successful. This also led to his illustrious fame. He was known as, if Kunlun does not appear, who can compete? Break! In response, Jiang Tian chuckled disdainfully. The Gungjin Chi weapon struck the Vajra of Tantra. To everyone's astonishment, the golden Chi weapon cut the demon-subduing pestle in half like a hot knife cutting butter. Then, the uncontrollable spiritual force, true Chi, and scripture spells exploded with a loud bang. They formed golden rings of air with a diameter of 100 meters and pushed out in all directions. Fraud, what spiritual force? It's all resentment of souls. Jiang Tian chuckled disdainfully and pointed out the key point. A simple sentence actually shocked Master Wuchen so much that he was dumbfounded. His face was covered in cold sweat, and he almost turned around and ran. Master Wuchen was originally an expert in cutting the path and robbing. He was a habitual offender of killing and robbing. He was a fierce fiend. There were only a dozen disciples under his wing who gathered for profit. There were no loyal believers or worshippers. Although he had obtained the Vajra pestle, he could not condense spiritual force at all. So, he did the opposite. After capturing people, he pulled out their tendons, skinned them, and tortured them in all kinds of ways. He collected many souls and refined them with a secret method to disguise them as Buddhist light and spiritual force to form an offensive force. But his secret method of disguise was very clever. He had been killing for a dozen years and no one had discovered it. Now that Jiang Tian had seen through it, how could he not be shocked and fearful? At this moment, Chen Anping's black snake sword qi also pierced through. Ha, the inheritance is not bad. But in your hands, it can't even use a tenth of its combat strength. In response, Jiang Tian laughed. He raised his right hand in a seemingly slow manner and flicked his finger. Clang! A gunmetal sword qi spread out like a fan. Every sword qi was so condensed that it seemed to be cast from gold. It was so dazzling that no one dared to look directly at it. What was more frightening was that it was carved with supreme Tao patterns that contained the laws of heaven and earth. It was so sharp that it could destroy all life and cut through heaven and earth. Clang! 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 The black snake sword qi instantly shattered into countless pieces, and the spirit turtle shield also cracked. Chen Anping only felt that the true martial seal in his hand was shaking violently, almost flying out of his hand. Then, he felt that his hand was lighter. How is this possible? He looked down and was shocked to find that the Dharma treasure that had been passed down for hundreds of years had been reduced to dust. Only yours still has some skill. But it's still far from a real flying sword. Facing Situ Yuanhao's flying sword, Jiang Tian laughed and punched out. This punch was like an antelope's horn. It was untraceable, but it had a natural feeling. Jiang Tian's punch landed on the tip of the sword. Under Situ Yuanhao's shocked gaze, the star competition sword, which could pierce through tanks and cut through ships, suddenly shattered like a piece of paper. The broken pieces of the sword danced in the air like butterflies and slowly fell to the ground. Puff! Situ Yuanhao's face turned as white as paper. He spat out a mouthful of blood. His body swayed and he almost fell from the sky. It's just the sword controlling technique. Your sword can't even move or kill on its own. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and mockingly. The ancient Wu Dang sect's dojo was dead silent. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Only the wind was blowing. All the spectators were flabbergasted, and they stood there without moving as if they were made of clay or wood. After Jiang Tian made his move, he bellowed, flicked his finger, waved his hand, and punched out casually. However, he defeated the joint attack of two peak God state experts, a half-step human immortal, and a human immortal. It was like a legend. Hiss! Suddenly, everyone gasped. They felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. That's terrifying. A Wu Dang sect leader was so scared that his legs trembled. What is his level of cultivation? I don't think a half-step mortal deity is this powerful. Indeed, he is much more powerful than he was when he fought with Zhang Qianlei. Did he break through again? Is he a real mortal deity? How is that possible? The elders outside the encirclement all exclaimed in shock and fear, as if they had seen a ghost. Deep in their hearts, there were some jealousy and resentment that they didn't want to admit. The semi-hidden sects had a long history and a deep heritage. The treasures, books, medicines, and herbs that had been accumulated over hundreds and thousands of years were as vast as the sea, and there were simply too many to count. It was not something that the martial arts families in the mortal world could compare with. That was why most of the semi-hidden sects were so powerful that any one of them could suppress the Huaxiaolong formation. However, for people like them who had such good resources and cultivated for decades, it was already a great fortune for them to reach the transcendent state. Being able to step into the God realm was even rarer. To be able to become an elder, they would be second only to one person and above everyone else, making the sect leader think highly of them. As for reaching the mortal deity level, it was even more unimaginable. It was enough to look down on the world and dominate the world. But Jiang Tian, he was an ordinary man from the mortal world who was born in an ordinary family with no martial arts heritage. He could reach the mortal deity level after cultivating for only 3 years. Damn it, compared to him, we have been cultivating for so many years. How infuriating. Brothers, kneel down and beg for old Zhang's mercy. In the distance, Zhang Qianlei put his hands on his waist and laughed. I don't even want to watch anymore. You guys are definitely not Jiang Tian's match. It's not worth watching. Master has become so powerful. He is like a god. Tang Linglong's face was filled with awe and admiration. Her worry gradually turned into excitement. She waved her fist and said, Master, come on, beat them. He is so powerful. He is just like the true god in the legends. Further away, Supermanly, He Hongchen, Wan Qili and the other tycoons looked at Jiang Tian with awe and admiration, as if they had seen the arrival of God. Sigh, 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 sigh. We were too arrogant in the car. If only we could have befriended him. Many people felt a pang of regret in their hearts. He is definitely more powerful than Yi Tianren when he was at his peak. He must be killed. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble in the future. The 4 masters who were fighting Jiang Tian in the air looked at each other with shock and fear in their eyes. They did not expect Jiang Tian to be so powerful. The 4 of them besieged him but were easily defeated by him. However, their fighting spirit gradually surged and their eyes were filled with greed. This person is so powerful. He must have the inheritance of the ruins of immortality, or he is the reincarnation of an old demon. It seems that Kang Teichu's inheritance is far more powerful than ours. As long as we can get his inheritance, we will definitely be able to become a celestial immortal. Their eyes gradually became firm. A monstrous fighting spirit rose into the sky, causing the wind and thunder to surge. Everyone, you have made your move. I, Kang Teichu, have not made my move yet. Give it a try. Jiang Tian flicked his right finger and the black flying sword floated in the air. He stood proudly in the void with his hands behind his back and said with a faint smile, I will show you a real flying sword. Don't let him use his flying sword. Kill. The 4 of them were shocked when they saw this. With a shout, they rushed towards Jiang Tian in a bid to be the first to use their killing moves. Chapter 677. Kill. Gong Yao shouted as his face turned red. His hands trembled as he made a hand seal. Suddenly, within a kilometer of the surrounding area, the majestic heaven and earth spiritual chi rolled, and numerous cicada wing flying daggers were condensed one after another. In an instant, thousands of cicada wing flying daggers appeared, forming a 10-meter-long flying dagger dragon. It was so densely packed that it covered the sky and swept toward Jiang Tian. Flying daggers, 1,000 cicadas. This was the secret art of the Gong family. It focused on quantity and quality. A single flying dagger could kill a transcendent grandmaster, not to mention there were over 1,000 of them. Master Wuchen's lips moved quickly as he murmured a Buddhist mantra and took out a golden alms bowl. Clank. As soon as this alms bowl appeared, it immediately soared into the air and flew above Jiang Tian. The mouth of the alms bowl released 10,000 rays of Buddhist light, and it actually had a kind of open and righteous, mighty and dignified charm. There were scriptures flashing inside and each word seemed to be carved out of gold. They flew toward Jiang Tian. The treasure of the Patala Palace, the golden alms bowl. It's in Master Wuchen's hands. Someone who knew the alms bowl widened his eyes and exclaimed. This treasure had a great background. It was personally crafted by a living Buddha of the Qing dynasty using the methods of Tantric Buddhism. It was further refined by several reincarnated living Buddhas and eminent monks for 100 years. It contained great aspirations, great merit, and great wisdom, and its powers were overwhelming. In the past 100 years, the eminent monks of the Patala Palace had used this treasure to vanquish demons. Swish! Situ Yuanhao's face darkened as his eyes flashed with killing intent. He smacked the back of his head like a crazy gambler and spat out a 3-inch sword. The sword was as red as blood and carried a wicked energy. It was engraved with complicated patterns. The small sword paused in the air for a moment, then it suddenly became bigger. It was like a blood rainbow piercing through the sun. It let out a strange howl as it flew toward Jiang Tian. This was the blood sword art of the Lin family. It was similar to the Dharma sword art of the Shu Mountain sect. However, his Dharma sword art was much more powerful than Bai Tianlei's. The speed of the Dharma sword was close to the speed of sound. Brother Situ, you have to be careful. Kang Te-chu is not easy to deal with. Seeing that Situ Yuanhao had even taken out his natal blood sword, Chen Anping was shocked. He waved his hands and dozens of small green swords appeared in front of him, ready to attack. Swish! As expected, Jiang Tian flicked his finger. A streak of finger light turned into a streak of golden light. It was extremely sharp and pierced through Gong Yiles, 1,000 cicadas, with unstoppable momentum. Crack! Crack! The sound of the cicada's wing flying daggers cracked. The cicada wing flying daggers crumbled like paper, and then exploded uncontrollably. The cicada wing flying daggers that were still intact formed a huge wave that danced in the air. Impossible! Gong Yile's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he saw the golden finger aura was about to reach his forehead. As he retreated like a meteor, he hurriedly waved his hands and pulled out 7 or 8 magic tools to protect his body. At the same time, he also summoned his protective aura in an attempt to block this sharp blow. During the era of the Republic of China, the 9-story pagoda was on par with the Lan Yi Society, the Hong sect, and the Green Gang. Over the years, they had suppressed Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Macau, and plundered as much as they could. These artifacts were very powerful, and each of them could withstand the blast of a cannon. They were no less powerful than Miyamoto Geniki's protective artifacts. He had reached the peak of the immortal state many years ago and was even more powerful than Geniki Miyamoto and Bai Tianlei. However, under Jiang Tian's little black flying sword that had been refined many times, whether it was a heaven-defying Dharma artifact or a protective aura, they all exploded in an instant. The golden finger aura pierced through the Dharma artifacts and 4 righteousness shield like a bolt of golden lightning and pierced through his head. His head exploded like a rotten watermelon. Amidst the mist of blood and brain matter, his body instantly became skin and bones, shriveled up like a dried corpse. Blood gushed out of his neck and was completely sucked out by the golden finger aura. Even his divine soul was swallowed by the golden finger aura in the blink of an eye. He had killed an immortal state warrior with 1 finger. I can't believe the power of 1 finger is so terrifying. Seeing this, many people were scared out of their wits and felt a chill run down their spines. In an instant, the expressions of many Wudang disciples and the reinforcements of the semi-hidden sects who were watching the battle changed drastically. Cold sweat poured down their backs as if they had seen a demon god. Gong Yao was Yi Tianren's peer. He was at the peak of the immortal state and was even more famous than Wang Chongyan. However, he was killed by Jiang Tian's finger. It was just like a legend. It was incredible. Kang Te-chu's cultivation is improving by leaps and bounds. Someone said with big drops of cold sweat on his forehead. Everyone still remembered that Jiang Tian had a hard time fighting Bai Tianlei and Hao Hongmei, who were at the peak of the immortal state, a year ago. But now, he could easily crush them. Jiang Tian's cultivation was terrifying, but what was even more terrifying was that he had been constantly growing and improving rapidly. Even Zhang Qianlei secretly clicked his tongue, thinking that he would never be able to break Jiang Tian's finger. Clang! At this time, Wuchen's alchemy gold alms bowl pressed down with a kind of destructive Buddhist power. It was as if Buddha had slapped down the 5-finger mountain. Many palaces below Jiang Tian were the first to bear the brunt of the impact and collapsed. Smoke and dust billowed and the airwaves were discharged. The ground paved with thick bluestone cracked and sunk, forming a huge pit with a radius of 10 meters and a depth of more than 1 meter. Ha! Seizing the esoteric sect's Buddhist treasure, turning the spiritual power of the eminent monk for your own use, and borrowing external forces like this, it's just a small trick after all. However, Jiang Tian, who was under great pressure, had a contemptuous look in his eyes. His long black hair fluttered like a waterfall, and his long robe fluttered. Obviously, he still had some strength left. At this time, he was bathed in thousands of golden Buddhist light. His whole body was shining brightly, and he was calm and composed, as if a real god had descended. Clang! Jiang Tian was simple and straightforward. He punched toward the sky. A gunmetal divine fist, which contained Tao patterns, shot out like a cannonball and instantly smashed the alchemy gold alms bowl. Under Jiang Tian's fist, the monstrous Buddhist light, the power of will, the secret spell scriptures, and even the alms bowl itself collapsed in an instant, turning into fragments dancing in the air. What? This man is too strong. Run! Run quickly! Seeing this, Master Wuchen was scared out of his wits, as if he had seen a devil. With his Dharma treasure broken, he had no more powerful means. Just as he was about to retreat, Jiang Tian had already stepped into the air, and his jade-white palm clapped in the air. Boom! A giant golden palm, more than 10 meters long, descended from the sky and slapped toward Master Wuchen. This giant golden palm was surrounded by many Tao patterns and secret spells. It emitted thousands of golden lights, flowing with brilliant colors, and dazzling. It was condensed and real as if it was carved out of gold, and the palm lines were clearly visible. Just like the Buddha Lord in the Journey to the West, Exorcism, slapping a giant palm at Sun Wukong, it could destroy a city with one palm and shake a mountain with one finger. This was the characteristic of the late-stage Qi refinement realm. Their cultivation techniques were in accordance with the heavenly Tao, and they could condense Tao patterns with every movement. They could continuously absorb the spiritual Qi of heaven and earth, increasing the lethality of their attacks. My life is over. Seeing this, Master Wuchen was so shocked that he was going crazy. He suddenly shattered all the Zi beads on his wrist. Suddenly, countless golden talismans burst out, and the Buddhist light filled the air. In the blink of an eye, 8 dense and heavy defensive shields were formed. The Zi beads were extremely rare 9-eyed elephant Zi beads. They had thousands of years of deep heritage and were extremely ancient and vicissitudes of life. They had also been blessed by several accomplished eminent monks in Tantric Buddhism and had been engraved with countless protective spells. Each spell had deep Dharma power and could withstand artillery attacks and missile bursts, not to mention so many spells. Master Wuchen thought that even if he was hit by a mortal immortal, the Zi beads could at least protect him for a while. But the dream was very rich, the reality was very thin. Bang, bang, bang. In the muffled sound of cannonballs exploding, the 8 light shields exploded one by one. Crack. Master Wuchen could no longer withstand the violent pressure and fell to the ground like a toad. Even if he struggled and screamed crazily, or used Buddhist divine powers to try to stop it, it was useless. It only took a breath. Boom! The giant golden palm pressed down like Mount Tai, directly smashing his invincible Vajra body into meat paste and sinking a few meters into the ground. Billowing blood, broken bones, muscle fibers, and internal organs emerged from the gaps of the fingers. Sttth. The invincible Master Wuchen, who is said to be invincible as long as Kunlun doesn't show up, died just like that. Everyone present gasped and their eyes were filled with shock and fear. They couldn't believe it. But everything in front of them was incomparable and they couldn't refute it. Jiang Tian killed 2 peak-stage immortal state warriors with a finger, a punch, and a palm. Although he showed the black flying sword, he didn't use it at all. From beginning to end, he only used his pure true essence and physical strength to kill people. He didn't use any tricks at all. In the blink of an eye, Situ Yuanhao's Dharma sword had already arrived. At this time, his Dharma sword had been infused with his blood and it had reached 3 feet long, like a crimson rainbow. It was surging with blood chi, sword aura and sword intent. In the sky, dark clouds rolled, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The energy of heaven and earth was restless. This blood-colored magic sword was like a blood-colored flying dragon that furiously slashed through the 9 heavens. It crossed a distance of several hundred meters and suddenly arrived. Its terrifying aura was already earth-shattering. How powerful! His murderous intent is extremely terrifying. The expressions of all the experts present changed when they saw this. Even Zhang Qianlei had a worried expression on his face. Humph. Jiang Taichu, even if you have the cultivation base of a human immortal, even if you're a peerless genius, you'll still have to die on the spot when you meet my blood-condensed magic sword. Back then, the father of the nation, Sun Wen's bodyguards were taught by me personally. I used to drink with the father of the nation. Even Yi Tianren's cultivation is on par with mine. You little brat, even if you're lucky and have some strength, how can you be my opponent? Situ Yuanhao gritted his teeth and shouted as his white hair fluttered. After drawing out 90% of his blood essence, his cheeks were dry and his skin was dry. His hair was much whiter, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. However, his eyes were abnormally excited and there was a hint of bloodthirst in them. This was the Dharma sword that came from the mortal deity's blood essence. It was activated to the extreme and sublimated to the extreme. Situ Yuanhao was confident that this sword could easily kill a half-step mortal deity. Even if they were both human immortals, they would not be a match for such a crazy fighting style. They would not dare to clash head-on and could only retreat. Chapter 678. Sigh. Brother Situ, you are too impatient. If we really kill him, how are we going to get his ultimate cultivation art? Some of the Wudang elders thumped their chests and stamped their feet. They all thought that Jiang Tian would be killed by Situ Yuanhao's attack. However, they were disappointed that they would not be able to get Jiang Tian's cultivation art. In the end, Brother Situ came out on top in this battle. Chen Anping shook his head and let out a wry smile. He was envious of Situ Yuanhao. He was a half-step mortal deity and was able to stand toe-to-toe with Zhang Qianlei. However, compared to Situ Yuanhao, he was still a far cry from him. Killing him is much more worth it than obtaining his cultivation technique. You pedantic fools will never understand. Although Situ Yuanhao's breathing was weak, he was still smiling confidently. At this moment, he was like a crazy gambler, betting his entire life's cultivation, all of his chips, just to kill Jiang Tian. Right now, Jiang Tian's fame was too great. He was the top of the power rankings and his prowess shook the entire world. He hunted down an entire country alone and suppressed the entire world alone. Killing Kang Taichu would bring him a lot of benefits. Situ Yuanhao would become famous after this battle. All the overlords in the world would submit to him, and the Hong sect would rise again after decades of silence. As for the cultivation art, it was secondary to him. After killing Jiang Tian, no one would be able to threaten him and the Hong sect. Do you really think that you can kill me with your blood essence sword? Jiang Tian sneered at Situ Yuanhao. Zap! Suddenly, a golden light shone from his eyes. It was as if a divine lamp had been lit, illuminating the past, present, and future. It was as if one could ascend to the heavens and descend to the underworld. The wind blew and the clouds moved. At this instant, Jiang Tian's aura skyrocketed all of a sudden, as if an immortal emperor had just awakened, as if a supreme god who had mastered all the Taoists of the past and present had just awakened. The energy was too terrifying. In the sky above the Wudang mountain, the clouds within a 10-mile radius swirled into a funnel-shaped whirlpool. The magic sword that Situ Yuanhao had formed with his blood, as well as the dark clouds and lightning caused by the activation of his cultivation method, were all destroyed in an instant. How? How is this possible? Situ Yuanhao's heart skipped a beat. His eyes widened and he almost fell from the sky. That was a mortal deity's blood essence sword. How powerful was it? Situ Yuanhao reckoned that even if Heavenly Yi from a few decades ago saw this sword, he would also be terrified and avoid it to some extent. Jiang Tian didn't attack. He was just gathering his energy. However, the chi of heaven and earth that was triggered caused the blood-nourished sword that he had painstakingly condensed to shatter. Just how powerful was Jiang Tian's cultivation? Free will among the human immortals. Limitless? Limitless? Peak level immortal. Situ Yuanhao was beyond imagination. He was so shocked that he forgot to run away and attack again. He just stood in the air in a daze, as if he had seen a god. At this moment, even the tourists of Mount Wuqian and the residents of the nearby towns were shocked by this scene. "Mom, look, there's an alien." A little girl tugged at her hot mom who was paying and pointed excitedly at the golden light in the direction of the back of the mountain. "Silly child, have you become stupid from watching too much anime?" The hot mother handed the candied haws to her daughter while looking at the back of the mountain. The candied haws fell to the ground halfway. Hot mom was so shocked that she was dumbfounded. "Oh my, what's that on the back of the mountain? Is that the Zhenwu Great Emperor?" At this moment, many tourists saw this golden light and cried out in surprise, craning their necks to look. On the other side. "Damn, what's that?" In Shurian City, in Danjiangkou City, many pedestrians and cars suddenly stopped and looked at the void a few kilometers away. This scene was too shocking and bizarre. A huge cyclone appeared and spun slowly. It had a heart-palpitating beauty that made people think of supernatural phenomena. They took pictures and recorded videos. On the back of the mountain, Jiang Tian took a step into the air and turned into a huge pillar of light. Golden light filled the air and shot into the clouds. "Mom, it must be an alien UFO." At Wuqian Mountain, the little girl pointed at the golden pillar of light that pierced through the heavens and earth. On the other hand, Hot Mom's face was filled with shock as she trembled. "Damn, is there really an alien? Has the apocalypse come early?" There's still some time until 2012. In Danjiangkou City, a couple interlocked their fingers. Their faces were full of shock and disbelief. Recently, there's a legend about the birth of a god on the internet, but it's been deleted. Let's see what they have to say this time. A reporter picked up his camera and pressed the shutter crazily. He was extremely excited. He didn't expect to see it this time. "Hurry up and take a picture. It'll definitely go viral on the internet." In the school, a group of high school students jumped up and down excitedly. They held their phones and fought to take pictures. "You drank with the founding father, and your cultivation is about the same as Yi Tianren's. Do you think you're amazing? That's why you're so smug. The world is so big. How can a frog at the bottom of a well like you imagine it? How can the cultivation of Jiang Taichu, be something that an ant like you can spy on? You want to kill me? You're overestimating yourself. Kneel." Jiang Tian stepped into the sky and reached a height of several hundred meters. Then, with a shout, his foot pierced through the clouds and tore through the sky. From the outside, it looked like the golden pillar of light that had shot into the sky had suddenly descended and smashed into the back of Wudang Mountain. Soon after, rings of golden cloud rings rippled and pushed outwards, covering a radius of more than 10 miles, including the entire back mountain of Wudang. The scene was even more shocking in the eyes of the people who bore the brunt of the impact. Boom! As Jiang Tian stomped his foot, the air trembled, and golden light filled the air. It was extremely dazzling. It was like a nuclear explosion. No one dared to look at it directly. Many people could not help but close their eyes. The foot that descended from the sky was aimed at Situ Yuanhao, but it affected everything within a radius of a few kilometers. Rumble. The ground within a radius of a few kilometers was like a beating drum, causing the continuous palaces to tremble violently. Huge waves surged in the calm lake. The towering trees were broken and turned into dust. The wood fibers danced like snow. The basin-sized rocks rolled on the ground like plastic bubbles and scattered in all directions. The power of a single kick is terrifying to such an extent. Terrifying. Sect leader, we're no match for him. Watch out, brother Situ. Chen Anping and the 8th elder of Wudang sect screamed. Their faces changed drastically as if they were grieving for their parents. They were 200 to 300 meters away from the center of the attack, but they were still blown dozens of meters away by the gusts of wind like catkins in the wind. Their faces changed drastically, and their eyes were filled with fear. They were so scared that their breathing stopped. The violent pressure seemed capable of destroying the heavens and the earth, and it pressed down on them to the point they almost spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. What is his cultivation base? Even though Chen Anping was a half-step human deity, he still felt as if his chest was being hammered by a heavy hammer. He could not even stand properly. He was so shocked that he felt as if he had seen a ghost. His body is emitting boundless light and he has a vajra-glazed body. Could it be that he has reached the earth deity level and is comparable to the Buddha? He's not even 30 years old and he's already an earth deity. How is that possible? At that moment, his eyes were filled with fear, shock, envy, jealousy, and disbelief. He could not help but think of all the rumors about Jiang Tian. He wondered if Chen Fan was really the reincarnation of the old demon. Otherwise, how could he be so powerful? Meanwhile, no one in Wudang Mountain and Shiyan City knew what was going on. Ah! Why is my cell phone screen white? There's no signal. Fuck! My camera is broken too. Does that golden light have electromagnetic waves? But it's 10 to 20 kilometers away. Everyone exclaimed and cursed. However, there were even more people who were watching this scene in horror. It was too shocking and terrifying. It must be the Zhenwu Great Emperor. Many people even kowtowed in the direction of Wudang Mountain, thinking that a deity had appeared. Faced with such a powerful kick, Situ Yuanhao did not even have the chance to dodge it. I can't run away. At that moment, he was horrified. It was as if he was trapped by some kind of spatial energy. His body felt like it was stuck in an invisible glue. It was difficult for him to move. Kang Te-chu. You can't become an earth deity. You're just an early-stage human deity. You can't kill me. In a moment of desperation, Situ Yuanhao shouted. Like a mad tiger, he unleashed all the skills he had learned in his life. Situ Yuanhao used all kinds of techniques. He made a series of hand seals and activated all his protective dermic artifacts. Dazzling rays of light blossomed as layer after layer of thick stellar energy spread out. There were all kinds of runes flowing on the earth chi like a canopy of clouds and a golden bell that protected his body. Eagle, come. In the end, he let out a loud roar and summoned the huge falcon. Screech. The eagle let out a sharp screech and flapped its wings. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, sending the roof tiles flying and the buildings collapsing. The giant eagle soared into the sky and charged at Jiang Tian as if it was going to protect its master. Frog in the well. Summer insects can't talk about ice. Jiang Tian's black hair fluttered like a waterfall. His body emitted a golden light. He looked like a lofty god of war. His face was full of disdain. You're just an ant. How would you know what I'm capable of? How would you know what I'm capable of? My cultivation isn't something you can guess. Jiang Tian shouted in a mocking tone as he descended from the sky. His foot tore through the clouds as he descended. The air burned and the void vibrated. His foot was like a missile that could penetrate the ground. Its power was unimaginable. Under Jiang Tian's foot, Situ Yuanhao's dermic artifacts, all kinds of protective dermic artifacts, and even the blood-red chi shield that he had activated were all useless. Bam! 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 His dermic artifacts shattered one by one. All kinds of light shields trembled and exploded. The giant eagle was like a chicken that had been hit by a baseball bat. It flew dozens of meters away. Its feathers flew everywhere. It screamed and died. Situ Yuanhao was stomped into the dust by Jiang Tian's foot. Blood gushed out and pieces of his organs splattered. His chest was pierced by Jiang Tian's foot, and he screamed in pain. He stomped a mortal deity with one foot. Oh my god! Is he still human? I'm afraid only real deities and deities can do that. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. They couldn't believe it. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Chapter 679. This was Situ Yuanhao. He was the leader of the Hong sect and had more than 100,000 disciples. During the Republic of China, even Du Yuesheng had to greet him respectfully. He was able to drink and chat with Mr. Sun Wen and intimidate half of Huaxia. His esteemed status was built on the foundation of his powerful cultivation. He was the disciple of the Hong sect's ancestral master, Situ Shao, and had reached the immortal state decades ago. Even someone as talented as Yi Tianren might be able to defeat him, but they should be on par. There was no way Chen Fan could have defeated Situ Yuanhao so easily. What? Situ Yuanhao is no match for him. Today, we have made a mistake that will cause everlasting regret. We have made a huge mistake. Chen Anping could not believe what he had just seen. He had inherited the Wudang orthodoxy, thus he was quite knowledgeable. He immediately noticed that Jiang Tian's tremendous strength and flesh were the strongest among the earth immortals in the records. Only the legendary grand sky deities and perfected golden deities could possess such terrifying power. Even Hao Taichung, the sect master of Kunlun, and Yi Tianren of Hongmeng were no match for Jiang Tian. No. There were only a handful of people in the entire semi-hidden faction that could defeat Jiang Tian. Even the brain-headed Taoist, who was imprisoned in the cliff cave, was not as powerful as Jiang Tian when he was at his peak. He knew that Jiang Tian had displayed the power of an early-stage mortal deity during his battle with Zhang Qianlei. Therefore, he believed that he, the Grand Elder, and the human immortal Situ Yuanhao would be able to kill Jiang Tian as easily as chopping vegetables. To his surprise, Jiang Tian's qi, cultivation arts, and physique were all signs of an earth-level deity. In less than a year, he had crossed the mortal deity and earth-level deity. Was he still human? Chen Anping could not help but complain. Kang Teichu, I will not let you get away with this. If I don't take revenge for this, I won't be a man. At this time, Situ Yuanhao could not hold on any longer. With a roar, his body suddenly exploded. His divine soul turned into a blood rainbow and disappeared in a flash. In the blink of an eye, he was already several kilometers away. TSK, bad people die because they talk too much. Jiang Tian laughed. The golden lake at the center of his forehead rippled, and the golden armored general leaped out. The golden armored divine general flashed and turned into a sharp golden light, piercing through like a bolt of lightning. Ah! Situ Yuanhao screamed miserably. The blood-colored soul avatar was shattered by the golden armored divine general's saber. It was devoured and absorbed in the blink of an eye. This was the true annihilation of both body and soul. Even if the gods were here, they would not be able to help him reconstruct his physical body. Wudang 9 Palace's 8 trigram sword, combined attack, immortal slaying sword. When he saw this scene, Chen Anping was terrified to the point the hairs on his entire body stood on end, and he shouted out explosively before attacking without holding back in the slightest. You want to use the immortal slaying sword? The sect leader is fighting like a madman. That will cost us half of our blood essence, and it will take 10 years for us to recover our cultivation. There is no other way. If we don't kill him, there will be endless trouble in the future. Let's kill him. In a blink, the 8 elders moved. Together with Chen Anping, they chanted spells and waved the swords in their hands at the same time. This sword art was the treasure of the Wu Dang Mountain and was a secret art passed down from generation to generation. The elders' sword techniques were fast and slow, hard and soft at the same time. The sword followed the body and the body carried the sword. They combined form and will and qi and soul. In the 6 harmonies, the eyes, body, dharma, art, soul, and form were all profound. Some elders moved like dragons out of the water, some were as quiet as a cat catching a mouse. Their hands were divided into yin and yang, their bodies were filled with the 8 trigrams, and their steps were filled with the 9 palaces. The swords in their hands hooked, pointed, flicked, stabbed, raised, and slashed. Every move and every wisp of sword intent contained hundreds of years of history and could easily kill a transcendent grandmaster with earth-shattering power. Suddenly, the spirit qi of heaven and earth gathered crazily. The spirit chi of heaven and earth within a few miles was sucked dry and formed 9 sharp chi blades in the air. Once the sword of deity is formed, Kang Te Chu, even if you are an earth-level deity, you will die. Then, Chen Anping threatened in a deep voice. If you know when to stop, then let's forget about this and we will mind our own business. The next step of the sword art was to refine the blood essence. This would consume a lot of energy for each of them. Even if they could kill Jiang Tian, it would be a loss they couldn't bear. I have also thought of settling this peacefully, but now I have changed my mind. I will destroy the Wu Dang sect. Jiang Tian sneered. Destroy the Wu Dang sect. Chen Anping was so angry that he cracked a smile. He shouted, Kang Te Chu, how dare you? Do you really think the Wu Dang sect is a nobody? His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he cracked a vicious smile. I'll let your blood splatter on the spot and accompany Situ Yuanhao, Wu Chen, and a few other old friends. Together. As soon as he said that, the 8 elders spat out a mouthful of blood onto their chi swords, dyeing them blood red. Together. In the end, everyone shouted. The 9 swords suddenly flashed and merged into one, turning into a giant sword that was 50 feet long. The sword, which had been refined with the blood essence, floated in front of Chen Anping. It was crystal clear and flashed with a red light. But in fact, it was full of blood chi and was extremely sharp. It was so powerful that it could even flatten a mountain. This sword can kill an earth-level deity. In the end, Chen Anping shouted and spat out a mouthful of blood essence on the deity-slaying sword. Suddenly, his face turned pale and his skin suddenly dried up. He seemed to have aged dozens of years in an instant. But the red light of the deity-slaying sword shone 100 meters in all directions and it became even more powerful. Kill! 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 In the midst of the 9 violent and ruthless roars, the deity-slaying sword suddenly turned into a crimson light and shot towards Jiang Tian. Chen Anping thought that this sword could kill a real earth-level deity. Zhang Qianlei, Zeus, Hao Taichong, Yi Tianren, and the sect master of Kunlun would be annihilated. You want to kill me with such a crude joint attack? You're really daydreaming. Jiang Tian chuckled and used the flying sword for the first time. The joint attack of the 9 elders was indeed very primitive. Their blood essence and the condensed spirit chi of heaven and earth couldn't be completely merged and could only double their combat power. But considering that the 8 elders were all peak-stage immortal state warriors and Chen Anping was a half-step human deity, this attack was at least comparable to an attack from an earth-level deity. Jiang Tian decided not to hold back and went all out. In fact, Jiang Tian's true essence was a few times more powerful than that of a half-step human deity. But his divine body had reached phenomenal success and he had many divine powers, Dharma spells and Xiao Hei's flying sword. Besides, his true essence was much more condensed than true chi. This increased his combat power by 100 times and he could at least kill a human deity. Swish! Xiao Hei's flying sword was activated by Jiang Tian's immortal will. It immediately turned into a ray of dark light and shot towards the deity-slaying sword. The dark light burst out like a shooting star. Waves of shrill sword whistles converged into a deafening roar, as if a fighter jet was tearing through the sky. Slash! Chen Anping shouted and formed a hand seal. The deity-slaying sword shone brightly. Like a blood-red dragon soaring into the sky, it clashed with Jiang Tian's little black flying sword. Bang! It was as if a few tons of explosives had been ignited. Under everyone's incredulous gaze, the deity-slaying blood sword exploded. Blood-colored aura shot out violently, and a surging shockwave blasted out in all directions like raging waves. Boom! Palaces and buildings collapsed one after another, turning into broken walls and ruins. Rumble! One by one, the fake mountains and strange rocks shattered, and the rubble pierced through the air. Crack! Towering trees were snapped one after another and turned into fine powder, sweeping up thousands of piles of snow. Xiao Hei's flying sword paused in the air. Jiang Tian's figure didn't move at all, and his expression was calm and relaxed. His sleeves fluttered lightly, and it was obvious that he still had energy left. As for Chen Anping and the 8 elders, their bodies shook violently, and they staggered back a few steps. Then, their faces swelled, and they spat out a mouthful of blood. This kind of attack was formed with the blood essence and was connected to the soul energy of the user. Once the attack failed, the user would suffer a cruel backlash. How is that possible? The deity-slaying sword has been broken. Then, they couldn't believe it. They screamed as if they had seen a ghost. No one has been able to break the deity-slaying combined attack since the Wu Dang sect was founded 1,000 years ago. And yet, he broke it so easily. Even an earth-level deity would have to avoid the deity-slaying sword. What is his flying sword made of? What kind of cultivation art does he practice to make it so powerful? It's so scary. He is the reincarnation of an old demon. Before the 9 elders could react, Jiang Tianzong let out a long laugh and said coldly, again. Swish. The little black flying sword that had paused for a moment suddenly accelerated, charging towards Chen Anping at a speed faster than lightning. Master Kong, stop. I admit defeat. Chen Anping's face was pale. He screamed and retreated. He wanted to beg for mercy. But it was too late. Xiao Hei's flying sword flew to his neck in the blink of an eye and wrapped around his neck. Swish! Blood gushed out of Chen Anping's neck. His head flew high in an instant. Bang! The headless body fell to the ground. Sect Master! The 8 elders were filled with despair and terror when they saw this, and their faces went pale as they let out shrill cries of shock as if they had lost their parents. Retreat! Like stray dogs, they fled in all directions, each of them trying their best to escape. Jiang Tian killed Immortal. He broke the combined attack of 8 immortal state warriors and a half-step human immortal with one sword. That kind of cultivation was too terrifying. It was not something they could resist at all. If they didn't run now, when would they be killed by Jiang Tian? As for the treasures left by the ancient Wudang sect, they were also very distressed. But at this time, what was more important than saving their lives? Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. In this battle, a mortal immortal, a half-step human immortal, and 2 peak-stage immortal state warriors had died. It was earth-shattering. But in fact, it all happened in just a few minutes. Jiang Tian killed madly along the way, slaying gods and killing immortals like chopping vegetables. How terrifying Jiang Tian's strength was. Chapter 680. Monk Wuchen and Gong Yao were both at the peak of the immortal state. One had to know that deity realm cultivators were often capable of leading a sect by themselves and suppressing a country by themselves. Miyamoto Minamoto controlled the Cherry Blossom Society and was on equal footing with the Mikado. Wang Chongyan, who was half a step away from the immortal state, was called the Grand Preceptor of Xingzhou. Yi Zhantian was in charge of the Huaxiaolong formation. As for the half-step human deities and mortal deities, they had a lifespan of 150 years, which was enough for them to lead the semi-hidden sects and roam the world freely. They all had great freedom, great creation, and great blessings. They had already transcended worldly affairs and only sought immortality and supreme Tao. They did not care about the mortal world. However, they were all killed by Jiang Tian. It was like the biggest joke in the world. Now that they saw the elders fleeing in panic, the crowd couldn't come back to their senses. It was as if they were dreaming. It should be known that just 10 minutes ago, they were full of confidence and arrogance, saying that they would definitely kill Jiang Tian. Run! Run! Our Wu Dang sect is destroyed. If we are late, we will be killed by him. Finally, all the elders, hall leaders, and disciples of Wu Dang sect came to their senses. They were scared out of their wits and ran for their lives. They wished their parents had given birth to them with 2 more legs. Who dares to run? I will kill you. Seeing this, Jiang Tian shouted. Xiao Hei's flying sword flew to the entrance of the dojo a few miles away and killed everyone in sight. Don't run. Old Jiang is not a person who kills innocent people. If you submit to him sincerely, he will spare you. Zhang Qianlei leaped forward a few times. His movement technique was as fast as lightning. He stopped a few ashen-faced elders and grinned. Brother Lei. Don't lie to me. We have set up a deadly trap. How can Kang Teichu spare us? Some elders were so scared that they screamed hysterically. Their bodies flashed like shooting stars as they fled into the distance. Fuck, I told you not to run away. Still running? Stop. You won't stop, will you? Go away. Zhang Qianlei was furious. He threw a disposable flying sword at the elder and turned him into ashes. Who dares to run? Zhang Qianlei stood proudly in the air, sweeping his gaze over the crowd. This is what happens to those who run. That thunderous roar shook everyone's heads, causing their heads to buzz. We submit. Master Kang, please spare our lives. Master Kang, from now on, we will all serve you, Master Kang. If you have any orders, we will obey without question. Everyone was terrified. Several elders returned to Jiang Tian's feet and knelt down one after another, kowtowing 3 times and 9 times. As for the other hall masters and disciples, they realized that Jiang Tian had indeed only killed those who tried to escape from the training ground, but did not care about those who stayed in the training ground. Therefore, they gave up on the idea of running away and returned to the training ground, trembling with fear. Today, I, Kang Teichu, have killed the sect leader of Wudang sect and suppressed all of you. Do you accept this? Jiang Tian put away Xiao Hei's flying sword, stepped on the void, and asked in a deep voice like a god descending. We submit. All the elders, hall masters, and disciples, nearly 1,000 of them, knelt on the ground, trembling, and lowered their arrogant heads. From now on, Wudang sect will be removed from the world and will be known as a branch of the Taiqing sect. Do you accept this? Jiang Tian took a step forward, and a great pressure came crashing down like a heavenly river. We submit. Many elders looked sad and helpless. After pondering for a while, they finally sighed deeply and nodded. The ancient Wudang sect had stood in the forest of semi-hidden sects for hundreds of years and had produced many capable people, which shocked Huaxia. But now, it had become a branch of the Taiqing sect, which was unacceptable to them. However, the situation was compelling. Jiang Tian had shown the strength to kill a mortal deity, so they did not dare to offend him at all. It could be said that if Jiang Tian wanted to kill them now, it would be as easy as cutting vegetables. You have to sign a divine soul contract with me and all the treasures of the sect will be mine. Do you accept this? Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and looked at them arrogantly. At this time, he was like a divine lord who stepped on the supreme Tao, looking down at the universe and asked coldly. Yes. 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 We accept this wholeheartedly. The elders' voices trembled as they kowtowed like they were pounding garlic. From now on, my disciple, Tang Linglong, will be the hall master of the Wudang sect and will be in charge of you. Do you accept this? Jiang Tian's eyes were like 2 cold bolts of lightning, sweeping across the elders. Suddenly, a terrible murderous intent shrouded the entire ancient Wudang sect like a mountain. Yes. Yes. I accept this wholeheartedly and will be loyal to Hall Master Tang. If you have any orders, we will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. Many elders, hall masters, and disciples were so shocked that their souls almost left their bodies. Their heads were bleeding and they screamed miserably. Many disciples secretly turned their heads to look at Tang Linglong. Their faces were full of shock and their hearts were full of envy and jealousy. She was only in her early 20s and she had become the sect leader of the Wudang sect. It was simply too important to have an amazing master. This was the ancient Wudang sect, which had been passed down for hundreds of years and was one of the most powerful sects at that time. Master saved me and didn't blame me. He even gave me so much. Tang Linglong's beautiful eyes widened. She was so touched that the rims of her eyes turned red. She did not expect this dispute to end in such a way. Whoosh! Jiang Tian floated to the ground and flew to Tang Linglong. He glared at her and said, I am now in control of a country. I am strong and powerful. Between heaven and earth, I can gallop freely. Do I need you to spend so much effort to help me find cultivation resources? Master, Tang Linglong lowered her head. Her beautiful eyes were full of tears. She was a little ashamed and also a little wronged. That's enough. You're the leader of a sect now. What's the point of crying like this? Jiang Tian walked to a hall with his hands behind his back. Halfway, he suddenly turned around and made a V-shaped gesture in the air with a bright smile. Just as Jiang Tian was about to fight with a mortal deity and a half-step mortal deity at the ancient Wudang sect. In a hidden military base in Shiyan City, Chao Shixiang and many senior members of the Long Formation were staring at the big screen, discussing and plotting. Gong Yao of the 9 Stories Pagoda. Why are they colluding with the ancient Wudang sect? Situ Yuanhao, the former leader of the Hong sect? I heard that he had already become a mortal deity. Wuchen of the Diamond Temple. We lost 3 Grandmaster-level soldiers to capture him. Red Sparrow stared at the computer screen and reported to Yi Zhantian and Chao Shixiang. At that time, other than Jiang Tian, no one knew that the battle was under the surveillance of the Huaxiaolong Formation. Her report had stirred the entire battle command. Everyone's face darkened as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Even Chao Shixiang and Yi Zhantian were shaken by the news. A peak-stage immortal state warrior was able to lead the special warfare organization of the Cherry Blossom Society or the Winter Soldiers. What would happen if a mortal deity or a half-step mortal deity who was more powerful than an immortal state warrior appeared? Even the Huaxiaolong Formation might not be able to stop them. The cultivation world in Huaxia would be in for a bloodbath. Deploy the drones to the sky and monitor the entire event. Also, activate the Beidou 1 satellite and record the entire event with the highest resolution. Chao Shixiang gave the order with a pale face. Among the semi-hidden sects, the ancient Wudang sect was the most dishonest. They had many agents in the mortal world who bullied the good and the innocent. They often killed people and robbed them of their possessions. More importantly, they were inextricably linked to the Cherry Blossom Society. Later, after Jiang Tian defeated the Cherry Blossom Society in Japan, Sasaki Haisha and the others also confirmed the matter. In the 1990s, the ancient Wudang sect and the Cherry Blossom Society had signed an agreement to share resources and information and to search for the incomplete map of the ruins of deity. The Nie Zhanghai family of Jinlin City and Qin Shuejiao of Yanjin City had both been supported by the 2 organizations. This made Chao Shixiang and Yi Zhantian furious. It seemed that Chen Anping had gone crazy in order to become a deity. He had made the Huaxiaolong Formation his enemy and joined forces with the Cherry Blossom Society, Huaxia's mortal enemy. Chao Shixiang and Yi Zhantian had been investigating and planning for a long time. They planned to eliminate Chen Anping during the sect competition when the elites of the ancient Wudang sect gathered. However, the 2 of them did not expect that. The 9-story pagoda, the Chinese Hong sect and the Jin Gang temple were all allies of Chen Anping. Old man Chao, this is going to be a tough battle. Yi Zhantian frowned and said with a serious face. Situ Yuanhao is a real mortal deity. Not even cannons can kill him. I'm afraid the Huaxiaolong Formation will struggle. We still have to fight. Chao Shixiang slammed the table and bellowed. The 9-story pagoda and the Chinese Hong sect had killed so many democrats in the past. This time, they have risen from the ashes and are making a comeback. Their goal is definitely not small. Yeah, we have to fight even if we can't defeat them. Black Tortoise rolled up his sleeves and said with a muffled voice. His fighting spirit was surging as he said, these bastards are too arrogant. Do they think the Huaxiaolong Formation is a pushover? Old man Chao, although most of us are just transcendent state cultivators, with our special combat suits and Dharma artifacts, we should be able to put up a fight. We ask for a fight. White Tiger swallowed hard and forced himself to calm down. However, his trembling hands betrayed his nervousness and uneasiness. The Huaxiaolong Formation was one of the most important weapons of the nation. It was the Great Wall of Steel that protected Huaxia. There were no cowards among its members. They had fought countless battles to repel the invaders of Huaxia. Huaxia was known as the Forbidden Land of international mercenaries and assassins, and the Nightmare of evil martial artists and paranormals. They had also taken the initiative to attack, chasing after the culprits for thousands of miles and beheading those powerful and evil Western cultivators. However, the disparity in power was not something that could be overcome with fighting spirit. Situ Yuanhao. He was a mortal deity. He was even more powerful than Yi Zhantian. It would be a lie to say that the soldiers were not afraid at all. Sigh, Red Sparrow heaved a sigh and said in a voice that only she could hear, if only Kang Te-Chu was still here. Old Man Chow, let's use heavy weapons if we can't defeat them. The atmosphere was gloomy. Suddenly, a senior military staff officer angrily suggested. That's our last resort. Chow Shixiang's pupils contracted as he said in a deep voice. He knew that this was going to be a fierce battle. If they wanted to kill these martial arts experts, the Huaxia Dragon Group would definitely suffer heavy losses this time. Their vitality would be greatly damaged and their strength would be greatly reduced. However, he had no other choice. The heritage of the ancient Wudang sect was precious. The best strategy was to suppress and reclaim it for the government's use. If he used heavy weapons to kill them all, the ancient books and cultivation resources would be destroyed as well. Just as the soldiers of the Long Formation were about to march to their deaths. Red Sparrow suddenly jumped up and exclaimed, "Oh my God, he is here." Chapter 681. Who is that? Look at how flustered you are. Black Tortoise glared at her. Yes. It's Kang Te-Chu. Quick, look. Red Sparrow projected the footage onto the big screen so that everyone could have a better look. It's him. Kang Te-Chu. Everyone looked at the footage in surprise and awe as a crazy smile appeared on their faces. What is he doing here? Isn't he in Sidoni? Chow Shixiang was shocked but he could not hide the smile on his face. His disciple Tang Linglong, the former captain of Dragon Warriors, has joined Wu Dang's sect. We have just seen that Wu Dang's sect is going to attack Tang Linglong. It seems that Kang Te-Chu is here to save her. An information officer reported. That's enough. Kang Te-Chu is very protective of his disciples. We have to fight them this time. Black Tortoise laughed. But they are immortal, a half-step mortal and 2 immortal state warriors. No, I have to help them. Yi Zhantian looked worried. To him, Jiang Tian was half a master who had once guided him to break through and step onto the path of cultivation. How could he not care about him? They are fighting. Just as Yi Zhantian was about to go to Wu Dang's sect, everyone suddenly exclaimed. Yi Zhantian stopped and looked back. Everyone stared at the big screen, not daring to make a sound. Jiang Tian had fought a mortal, a half-step mortal and 2 immortal state warriors alone. It was an unprecedented battle. It was extremely rare. Even when Yi Tianren was at the peak of his power, he had never fought like this. He had only fought 2 or 3 immortal state warriors alone. Hiss. This Jiang Tai-Chu is too heaven-defying. The 4 of us joined forces to attack, yet it was so easily broken by him. Suddenly, everyone gasped in unison, and their expressions were shocked to the extreme. It was as if they'd seen a ghost. In terms of understanding of Jiang Tian, the Huaxiaolong Formation could be said to have the deepest understanding. The Long Formation had paid close attention to Jiang Tian's battle with Xiao Bin, the battle with Zhang Qianlei, the battle with Xiao Bin, the battle with Dong Yang, the battle with Hao Hongmei, the battle with Zhang Qianlei, and so on. They analyzed every single one of Jiang Tian's battles frame by frame, giving a detailed and scientific evaluation. The only thing left was to drag Jiang Tian onto the test bench and slice him up for observation. But at this moment, they realized that they had never known Jiang Tian before. Jiang Tian's cultivation at this time was very strange to them, and they didn't dare to believe it. His cultivation has increased again. Yi Zhantian's voice trembled. His heart was in turmoil. How is that possible? Could it be that he made another breakthrough when he was in Sidoni? Black Tortoise and the others were dumbstruck. But then, Jiang Tian killed Gong Yile and Master Wuchen, who were at the Divine Realm peak stage, with one palm. How could it be so easy to kill a deity? That was an instant kill. No one below the Earth level deity level could do it so easily. Everyone was dumbfounded. No matter how shocked they were, they had no choice but to believe it. Jiang Tian had killed immortal state peak stage deities in a row, which was much easier than Jiang Tian had killed by Tianlei and his wife and Miyamoto. Back then, Jiang Tian's battle lasted for an hour or two. But now, it was a one-hit kill. The saint who killed Zeus had used up a great deal of his energy. He was so tired that his hair had turned white. In fact, Jiang Tian didn't have the yang herb, so he didn't make a breakthrough. However, the months of hard work had not gone to waste. His cultivation had reached the 7th level of qi refinement. Situ Yuanhao has used his ultimate move. This is the secret art of the Situ family, the blood nourishment sword. Suddenly, Yi Zhantian became nervous. Years ago, Yi Tianren thought highly of Situ Yuanhao's move. It was comparable to the flying sword art of Mount Shu. Moreover, Situ Yuanhao had not reached the mortal deity level at that time. He was just an immortal state warrior. Now that his cultivation had improved, he would be even more powerful. What the fuck? How is this possible? Then, under everyone's shocked gazes and exclamations, Jiang Tian hadn't even made a move yet. He had already shattered Situ Yuanhao's blood nourishment sword. However, what happened next was even more shocking. Jiang Tian actually soared into the air, his foot piercing through the clouds and splitting the air, directly stomping Situ Yuanhao to death. He killed him. He killed a mortal deity with one stomp. Oh my god. I can't believe it. Everyone felt that it was unreal and surreal. Kang Taichu killed a mortal deity with one stomp. Even someone as mature as Chao Shixiang was so shocked that he jumped up from his chair. Damn it. Is this for real? Am I dreaming? Red Sparrow reached out and pinched the black tortoise's thigh. It hurts. Can you stop pinching me? The black tortoise let out a cry of pain, reminding everyone that it was real. Kang Taichu can crush a mortal deity with one stomp. How powerful is his cultivation and constitution? Yi Zhantian exclaimed. Only someone of his cultivation level would understand what the human immortal realm meant. It was beyond the immortal state and was almost immortal. It could withstand a barrage of cannon fire. Unless nuclear weapons were invented, they would be invincible in the world. However, Situ Yuanhao's body was crushed by Jiang Tian and his divine soul escaped. Then, everyone saw Jiang Tian easily destroy the immortal slaying sword that Chen Anping and the others had condensed. With one slash, Chen Anping's head was sent flying. When Jiang Tian walked to the lobby, he made a victory sign in the shape of a V to the camera of the drone. Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded, and silence filled the air. One mortal deity, half mortal deity, and two immortal state warriors didn't see a single drone. This means that Kang Taichu still had time to observe his surroundings when he was fighting. Holy shit, he's too abnormal. He still has time to observe the drones when he is fighting a mortal deity. Is there any justice in this world? Everyone was about to lose their minds. Zhan Tian, I am afraid that not even Situ Shao, the founder of the Hong sect at the end of the Qing dynasty, and your father were as powerful as you. Chao Shixiang sighed meaningfully. I am afraid not. Yi Zhantian let out a wry smile and shook his head. He was getting more and more anxious. Jiang Tian and his father had agreed to meet in 3 years. Who would win when the time came? Elder Chao, what should we do with the video of this battle? Should we keep it top secret or make it public? Red Sparrow asked seriously. Make it public on the dark web. Elder Chow waved a hand. Seeing that everyone was confused, Elder Chow said. In the 6 months since Kang Tae-chu left Huaxia, many international tycoons and overlords have invaded Huaxia. The 9-story pagoda and the Hong sect are also on the rise. This time, let's show them that Kang Tae-chu hasn't left Huaxia. And what will happen to these bastards if they dare to do whatever they want in Huaxia? When the Huaxia Long Formation released the news and the video, it swept across the world like a storm. The founder of the 9-story pagoda, Gong Yile, had died. The immortal state overlord, Master Wuchen of the Diamond Temple had died. The leader of the Hong sect, mortal deity Situ Yuanhao, was crushed by Kang Tae-chu. Chen Anping, the sect leader of the ancient Wudang sect, was beheaded by Kang Tae-chu. The ancient Wudang sect had surrendered. These pieces of news were like a 1,000-pound boulder thrown into a calm lake, causing huge waves to rise to the heavens. It shocked all the major organizations in the world. Many big countries were so shocked that their eyeballs fell to the ground. They were dumbfounded. Even though the United States of America was powerful, they could only kill 1 or 2 immortal state warriors with firearms. They had never killed a mortal deity before. Moreover, Jiang Tian had killed 2 immortal state warriors, a half-step mortal deity and a mortal deity all by himself. Sidoni, at the Taiqing sect. Old Lord Hua, it seems that the Huaxia Long Formation released the video on purpose. It's very clear. Shen Mange watched the video on the dark web on her tablet and said with furrowed brows. 1 man killed a mortal deity, a half-step mortal deity and 2 immortal state warriors. This is enough to intimidate those who covet Huaxia. Hua Qingtian lamented. The Long Formation wants to tell the world that even though Kang Tae-chu has established a new sect, he is still a descendant of the Yan Huang and will fight for Huaxia. What is the sect leader's cultivation level now? Has he reached the level of Earth-level deity? Everyone exclaimed in shock. Their hearts were in turmoil. Everyone knew that Jiang Tian had made a breakthrough in Sidoni. Although he had been in seclusion for a long time after the battle with France, there seemed to be no sign of a breakthrough. But judging from the video, it seemed that the sect leader had killed a mortal deity with much less effort than Zeus. The sect leader's cultivation base is unfathomable and unfathomable. How can the likes of you and I guess? Hua Qingtian shook his head with a yearning look. Although he couldn't do it, he yearned for it. Kang Tae-chu killed a real mortal deity. In the dark world, many overlords were deeply shocked by a series of shocking news. They couldn't believe it. In the world of cultivation, saints and mortal deities had always been on the same level, but this was only a guess. After all, the battle between a saint and a mortal deity was extremely rare and there were only a few records of it. Therefore, when Jiang Tian killed Zeus, many people didn't think that Jiang Tian had reached the level of mortal deity. They thought he was still a half-step mortal deity. However, this time, when Jiang Tian killed Situ Yuanhao, a real mortal deity, everyone had to believe it. Kang Tae-chu must be a real mortal deity, or even a peak mortal deity or an earth-level deity. He killed a real mortal deity, a half-step mortal deity, and 2 peak immortal state warriors. Even the United States of America didn't show such terrifying strength when they hunted down immortal state warriors all over the world in the 1960s. A veteran overlord who knew the history exclaimed. Even if Yi Tianren was still alive, and even the founder of the Hong sect, Situ Shao, didn't have such strength. He killed an immortal state warrior as easily as cutting vegetables. He killed an immortal state warrior with a flick of his finger and crushed a mortal deity with 1 foot. With such strength, I'm afraid he's already invincible on this planet. Someone said confidently. Kang Tae-chu is invincible. Invincible. My big saber is again unable to endure the thirst. The diehard fan, Big Saber Bro, was spamming the screen again. I heard that the founder of the Hong sect, Situ Shao, was a mortal deity before he went into seclusion. He should be an earth-level deity now. Kang Tae-chu is only an earth-level deity. I don't think he is a match for Situ Shao. At this time, different opinions began to emerge. Chapter 682. Yi Tianren is not bad either. He defeated many immortal state warriors back in the day. I'm afraid he's not even an earth immortal, or even a celestial immortal. Situ Shao is from the Qing dynasty. How could he survive until now? I'm afraid he's already a pile of bones. I'm afraid Yi Tianren is no match for Kang Tae-chu either. Kang Tae-chu's strength has increased too quickly. Everyone was arguing fiercely. Spittle was flying everywhere, and they were about to start a fight. Who can defeat Kang Tae-chu now? The observer, come out and enlighten us. At this time, someone made a request. The observer, who was lurking in the dark, really came out. It's meaningless to argue about the strength of Kang Tae-chu, Yi Tianren, Situ Shao, and the others. Yi Tianren, Situ Shao, the first vampire, the wolf ancestor, the red-robed archbishop of the Holy See, or the powerhouses of the Yin sect of Hua Xia, all of them might be as strong as Kang Tae-chu. The point is, Kang Tae-chu is the only immortal state warrior who dares to expose himself to the world and is not afraid of the threats of the superpowers. You should remember that a few months ago, Kang Tae-chu led Sidonie to defeat France and announced the Sheng Yuan Immortal Healing Village to the world. At that time, many people ranked Sidonie as the 6th most powerful country in the world. At this point, there was a sharp edge between the observer's strokes, exuding a monstrous domineering aura. At this time, Kang Tae-chu has killed human immortals, half-step human immortals, and immortal state warriors. He's obviously an earth immortal. He controls Sidonie, the 6th most powerful country in the world, and he himself is an earth immortal who can crush immortal state warriors. Who would dare to provoke Kang Tae-chu? He's the first person in history to do that. Right now, only a few superpowers dare to provoke Kang Tae-chu. When the observer hammered out the last few words, the observer, he said, many experts in the dark held their breaths, but their hearts were filled with shock. Jiang Di Xian will lead the 6th superpower. First in all of history. At this moment, Kang Tae-chu's name was known all over the world, and he was above many immortal state warriors and human immortals. He was like an eternal emperor. Our arcanists must withdraw from Hua Xia immediately. This Kang Tae-chu actually came back. This is a video released by Huaxiaolong Formation. Who knows, maybe Kang Tae-chu and Huaxiaolong Formation are working together. This is too scary. In France, in England, in Russia. The intelligence agencies of many big countries were all dumbfounded and scared out of their wits. United States, Pentagon. 5 generals of the Eagle faction gathered in a brightly lit office. General Keynes said seriously, everyone, we have to restart the research on Kang Tae-chu. I still think that Kang Tae-chu will overturn our current order. He will overturn our civilization based on technology and commerce. He has already defeated France and killed immortal state warriors. How far is he from the United States of America? General, Marshall controls the Congress and the courts. He even forced Shelton of the Langley building to step down. Are you sure you want to take this risk? A rear admiral of the Navy sighed and said. Besides, many funds for Kang Tae-chu's arcanists have been rejected by the Congress. A lieutenant general of the Air Force smiled wryly and shook his head. We don't have the funds. We can't cook without rice. Without the funds, the universe shield is about to disband. Those arcanists are not doing charity. They won't work for the United States of America for free. Everyone, someone will provide us with the funds. A sharp killing intent flashed in Kane's eyes as he said proudly, that's right. Marshall doesn't have the final say in the United States of America. It's not something Kang Tae-chu can control. Who will provide us with the funds? A general shook his head and said. You know, whether it's developing arcanists, developing cutting-edge weapons, or killing Kang Tae-chu, it won't be a small amount. $1 billion, $2 billion. It might not be enough. It's the Celestial Deity Corporation that will provide us with the funds. Kane smiled confidently. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell into dead silence. Everyone was dumbfounded. The Celestial Deity Corporation is going to attack Kang Taechu? After a long while, a general suddenly became spirited. He slapped his thigh and laughed wildly. He laughed and said, "They are super overlords. With the support of the Celestial Deity Corporation and the Universe Shield, it will be easy for us to get rid of Kang Taechu." While the entire world was still in an uproar over this battle, and many organizations and experts were plotting, estimating, and discussing, Jiang Tian had already entered one of the great halls of ancient Wudang. He sat high up and looked down at the many Wudang elders and hall masters. The various semi-hidden sect leaders and sect leaders accepted their kowtows. Zhang Qianlei sat below him, his legs crossed as he sipped his tea. Tang Linglong stood behind Jiang Tian like a fox pretending to be a tiger. She raised her jade-white chin, feeling proud. "I am Wan Qili, leader of the Bamboo United Gang of Treasure Island, a disciple of the 9-story tower. I pay my respects to Master Kang." At this moment, a middle-aged man in his 40s kowtowed to Jiang Tian, trembling. "I am He Hengqian of Macau, a disciple of the 9-story tower. I pay my respects to Master Kang." Another old man in his 80s also kowtowed. This man was the gambling king of Macau, and his net worth was over 100 billion. However, in front of Jiang Tian, he was nothing more than a lowly ant. "I am Supermanly, a businessman from Hong Kong. I pay my respects to Master Kang. I hope that Master Kang can come to Hong Kong and teach you a thing or two. I will be waiting for you with open arms." Supermanly also knelt on the ground with a face full of reverence, like a believer in the presence of God. "Who is Wan Yanfang to you?" Jiang Tian didn't even look at He Hengqian and Supermanly. He flicked his finger and asked Wan Qili. "That is my father." Wan Qili's heart skipped a beat, but he still answered truthfully. "He, your father was killed by Yi Zhantian, and Yi Zhantian is a good friend of mine." Jiang Tian said with a half-smile. "Also, Yi Zhantian said that the Bamboo United Gang is not allowed to step into Huaxia. Do you remember? How dare you come here? Master Kang, please calm down. Please don't kill me." Wan Qili was scared out of his wits. He kowtowed like he was pounding garlic and quickly said, "Master Kang, I have no status in front of Gong Yile. He never mentioned anything about the fight with you. I know nothing about it. That's why I am here." The Bamboo United Gang was the #1 gang in Taiwan. Wan Qili had tens of thousands of disciples under him. This person could summon the wind and summon the rain in the Bao Island region. His hands and eyes were everywhere, and he could influence elections and control politics. But in front of Jiang Tian, he was like a 3-year-old kid who had made a mistake. He was so scared that tears rolled down his cheeks. He quickly said, "Master Kang, the 9-story pagoda has been in Taiwan for 40 years. It controls many gangs in Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Its assets are in the tens of billions of USD. Even though you killed Gong Yile, the branches are still here. All you need to do is to send people to control them. You are so rich that you can rival a country. And I am the best person to do that. It seems like you don't know how much money I have. It's only a few billion USD. Why would I care about it?" Jiang Tian sneered and said lazily. Wan Qili was shocked. He never thought that Jiang Tian was not even interested in controlling the 9-story pagoda. "Cut off one of your arms as punishment and get out of here." Jiang Tian waved his hand and said, "Thank you, Master Kang, for sparing my life." Without the slightest hesitation, Wan Qili took a long sword from a Wudang disciple. With a flip of his hand, he chopped off his left arm. Beside him, He Hengqian and Supermanly were terrified. This was the infamous Wan Qili, but he did not even have the courage to fight back. Jiang Tian didn't even look at the three of them. They were just filthy rich. He let them go. Grandmaster Jiang, I am the Grand Elder of ancient Wudong, Dong Senator. I congratulate Grandmaster Jiang on his profound power and longevity. At this moment, in the crowd, a black-clothed elder quickly walked forward and trembled as he kowtowed on the ground. I heard that you hate me a lot. Jiang Tian tapped his finger on the armrest of the chair and said with a half-smile. Nye Shuaman was the one who came up with the idea to ambush me. You were the first one who supported it. And you were the one who brought Nye Shuaman into the Wudong gang when you were in charge of the business in Jin City? Dong Sen was so scared that his legs started to tremble. Just as he had guessed, many elders, hall masters, and disciples had already surrendered. They were all rushing to Tang Linglong to denounce her. Master Kong, I am the only one who knows about the Wudong gang's treasure. Dong Sen said with trepidation. I am the only one who knows how to break the seal. I will take you there now. I heard that you need a stalk of young grass. Ha, you think you can hide it from me? It is under the Crane Palace. I can break the seal with one slash. Jiang Tian looked up and laughed. What? You know. Dong Sen was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Only he, the Grand Elder and the Sect Master, knew about the location of the treasure. The other 7 elders didn't know about it. How did Kong Taechu know about it? I will give you one more chance. If you can't convince me, then go with Chen Anping. Jiang Tian said coldly. At this moment, Dong Sen was so scared that he didn't know what to do. His forehead was covered in sweat and his mind was racing. Half a minute felt like a century. Just as he was about to faint from fright, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind like a flash of lightning. Master Kong, I know where the 9-sword deity's treasure is. Oh. The 9-sword deity. Jiang Tian originally wanted to kill this bastard. But when he heard this, he slowly sat back down and said with a hint of interest, Tell me. Jiang Tian had heard of the 9-sword deity. He was the peerless elite who killed the sacred battle ape and the owner of the Heavenly Court's flying sword. Previously, in the cave of Luo Zifeng in the Himalayas, Jiang Tian and Huaqing Tian had obtained the Heavenly Court's flying sword, the sacred battle ape Qi Aosheng's iron rod, and a map. Jiang Tian had studied the map carefully. It should be the map of the 9-sword deity's tomb. But the map was too small. There were only a few mountains and rivers, and it couldn't match the current terrain of Huaxia. Moreover, the mountains and rivers were all ancient names that were obscure and difficult to understand. It might be a name from the Ming dynasty that had been changed. Jiang Tian couldn't find any clues, but he didn't expect to find something in the ancient Wudong. Chapter 683. Phew. Dong Sen heaved a sigh of relief and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He knew that he had made the right bet. For someone like Jiang Tian, who stood at the top of the world, only these cultivation resources could move him. The 9-sword immortal was said to be born at the end of the Southern Song dynasty. He cultivated to the level of Earth Immortal and lived for hundreds of years. It was said that Zhang Sanfeng, the founder of martial arts sect, was taught by him. At the end of the Qing dynasty, the founder and several leaders of the Yin sect combined the ancient records and followed many clues. Finally, they found the burial place of the 9-sword immortal, the Sword Tomb. Unfortunately, there was a powerful restriction there and they couldn't open it. The founder, master, and Chen Anping, the 3 leaders of the back mountain of Wudang sect, went to the secret chamber every once in a while for more than 100 years, but they always returned empty-handed. But some time ago, Chen Anping received an invitation from the leader of Shu Mountain, Hao Taichong, saying that he found a way to open the secret chamber. Chen Anping was overjoyed and said that he might be able to learn the secret method of Earth Immortal this time. Oh, I see. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Then, he looked at Dong Sen with great interest and asked, Elder Dong, where did the 9-sword immortal die? The gung metal divine body was too powerful. The heavenly materials and earthly treasures needed to break through in the later stages were also as vast as the sea. For example, the heavenly cycle perpetual formation was so abundant in spiritual qi. In addition, he had taken the Guizhong Cauldron Heavenly Pill, which was a heaven-defying elixir, but he had not achieved a breakthrough. He had only condensed the cultivation of the 7th level of Qi refinement. But if the 9-sword immortal was really an earth immortal, then he might have reached the foundation establishment level. Then, his dojo must be a supreme-grade spirit vein with rich spiritual qi, even more powerful than the Dragon Marrow spirit spring in Yuhua Villa. It was very likely that it could support Jiang Tian's breakthrough. At this time, Dong Xin glanced at Zhang Qianlei and said hesitantly, Master Kong, I'm not sure about this. Can you wait for me to investigate in detail? Jiang Tian sighed that this person was also very clever. He didn't know if he wanted Zhang Qianlei to hear him, so he deliberately slowed down. However, Jiang Tian had always been a person who did not use people he suspected. Since he was friends with Zhang Qianlei, he would not hold back. He immediately smiled and said, Brother Qianlei and I are like brothers. You can speak your mind. Let me tell you, you people have no idea how close old Jiang and I are. What's the point of all this scheming? Zhang Qianlei laughed and cursed, but he was truly moved. Only an old monster like him, who had been in Jianghu for 100 years and had experienced bloody storms, knew how twisted, sinister, treacherous, and unfathomable people's hearts were in the path of cultivation. In order to compete for cultivation resources, brothers would kill each other, brothers would fight within the same family, father and son would scheme against each other, and husband and wife would turn against each other. Jiang Tian was also an old devil who had experienced the vicissitudes of life. How could he not know about the sinister nature of people's hearts? At this moment, he was completely unreserved with Yi Shiwen, which meant that he trusted Yi Shiwen 100-fold. Zhang Qianlei was very stubborn and never bowed his head to Jiang Tian. But at this moment, he made up his mind. Old Jiang, just based on your trust in me today, my life belongs to you. Whoever dares to kill you will have to walk over my dead body first. However, Tang Linglong waved her hand to disperse the crowd and said, except for Elder Dong Sen, all of you can leave first. Remember, from now on, our sect will guard the homeland. We can kill foreign invaders, but we can never invade the secular world. Those who violate this order will be killed without mercy. Yes. Sect Master. Many elders, hall masters, and disciples bowed in agreement, and then slowly retreated. After a while, only Elder Dong Sen, Tang Linglong, Zhang Qianlei, and Jiang Tian were left in the hall. Well, Elder Dong Sen, can you tell us now? Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. Dong Sen said the name of a place. Jiang Tian and Zhang Qianlei looked at each other in surprise and said in disbelief, why is it on the northern islands of the Arctic? Seeing that the two didn't seem to believe him, Dong Sen was startled and hurried to say, I'm not lying. The 9-sword immortal was a golden deity who could cross the river on a reed and walk on the sky. The entire earth was like an uninhabited land to him. There is no place he can't go. Besides, the spirit qi on earth has been depleted. The 9-sword immortal must have searched the entire Huaxia for cultivation resources. He might be able to find something in a deserted place. Jiang Tian also agreed with this explanation and nodded. He nodded and said, other than Chen Anping of the ancient Wudang sect and Hao Taichong of the Amei sect, who else knows where the 9-sword immortal died? As far as I know, the sect masters of Dian Song, Tian Shan, and the ancestral master of the Hong sect were also invited by Hao Taichong. Dong Sen said. The sect masters and the tycoons have the same idea. They want to work together to find the hidden treasures of the 9-sword immortal and form an alliance to fight against Kunlun. It looks like there will be a fierce battle when the time comes. Zhang Qianlei said with a serious face. Not to mention that you once killed Hao Hongmei, you also killed a Dian Song disciple. In order to fight for this treasure, it will definitely be a brutal fight. Hao Taichong and the ancestral master of the Hong sect, Situ Shao, have probably reached the level of earth-level deity. Old Jiang, you should refine the Zhenyang grass first and then break through to the next level. Dong Sen, when will the hidden treasures of the 9-sword immortal be opened? Or should I say, when did Chen Anping and the others plan to go to the hidden treasures of the Nine-Sword Immortal? Jiang Tian asked with furrowed brows. According to their calculations, it should be this year. Dong Sen said respectfully. According to Chen Anping and Hao Taichung, the Nine-Sword Immortal had set up the array according to the green sack star scripture. He had drawn the land into a river and gathered the rocks into a mountain. He had used the power of the stars and the energy of the sunspots to form a protection array. It was a peerless array that had never been seen before. According to Chen Anping's calculations, the energy of the sunspots would weaken every 11 years. It was the best time for them to break into the hidden treasures of the Nine-Sword Immortal. So? Jiang Tian nodded. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes. How many incomplete maps of the ruins of immortality have you collected over the years? How much do you know about the legends of the ruins of immortality? There is indeed an incomplete map of the ruins of immortality among the ancient martial artists. Dong Sen did not expect that Jiang Tian was also searching for the secrets of the ruins of immortality. He thought to himself that Wu Dang's sect was going to be plundered clean by Jiang Tian. But he did not dare to hesitate. If Master Kong needs it, I will give it to you, he said with a serious face. However, the old man knows very little about the secrets of the ruins of immortality. There are all kinds of rumors, many of which are unfounded and unfounded. They may not be credible. The old man has been trying to persuade Chen Anping not to waste his energy on the ruins of immortality. Whatever you heard from Chen Anping and the others, just relay it directly, Jiang Tian said with a frown. Chen Anping and the others said that the ruins of immortality should be the remains of ancient cultivators. Seeing that Jiang Tian seemed to be a little impatient, Elder Dong Sen was shocked and hurriedly bowed. According to various Taoist classics, in the pre-Qin period, the earth was full of spiritual qi and powerful cultivators, such as Nuwa, Fuxi, the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, Qiyu Hou-yi, and others, should all be cultivators. According to Chen Anping and the others, it seems that a super-powerful cultivator invaded the ancient earth. Thousands of powerful cultivators in the pre-Qin period are likely to be more powerful than human immortals. They used their monstrous power to extract the spiritual qi of heaven and earth on the ancient earth and forcibly isolated a dimensional secret realm. While avoiding the invasion of the super-powerful cultivators, it also formed a cultivation paradise, the ruins of immortality. An invasion of a super-civilization. Could it be another cultivation civilization? Hearing those words, Jiang Tian's heart jumped, and he was emotionally moved. In the ears of others, Dong Sen's words must be nonsense, like myths and legends. However, Jiang Tian knew that this was very possible. It could even be said to be the most logical explanation. If there was no cultivation civilization on Earth, it would be impossible to explain the many spells, martial arts, and Western magic left on Earth. It was impossible for a prosperous cultivation civilization to disappear for no reason. Its vitality were more vigorous and powerful than that of human technology and commercial civilization. The only explanation was that a more powerful civilization had appeared and the ancient cultivation civilization knew that they were no match for it, so they hid on Earth. They extracted all the spiritual qi of the Earth and turned it into a dead planet to use as a cover to confuse the super cultivation civilization, while they hid in a dimensional space to enjoy the spiritual qi. The cultivators of the pre-Qin period are quite capable. Jiang Tian flicked his fingers and thought for a while. Then he made a decision. Finding the ruins of immortality was not something that could be done overnight, so he was not in a hurry. The most important thing now was to break through to the 8th level qi refinement stage as soon as possible. The next step was to find the place where the immortal of 9 swords died. 1 month is enough for me to break through once. Let's go and get the Zhengyang grass and the incomplete map of the ruins of immortality. Thinking of this, Jiang Tian stood up and waved his sleeves. Master Kong, Celestial Master Zhang, this way please. Elder Dong Sen hurriedly led the way. The group of people arrived in front of the Crane Palace. Elder Dong Sen executed his secret technique. Stepping on the stars, he chanted incantations and formed hand seals. After a series of actions, he closed the treasure room's formation and opened the door. He nodded and bowed as he said, "Grandmaster Jiang, please enter." "Forget it, you can help me get it." Jiang Tian scanned inside with his divine sense and shook his head in disdain. He was too lazy to take a step in. The hidden treasures of ancient Wudang must be extremely tempting and irresistible to ordinary people. However, in Jiang Tian's opinion, it was just as so. He could ask Tang Linglong to send it to the Taiqing sect or leave it for the Huaxiaolong formation. However, the Zhenyang grass was what he needed the most. Therefore, Jiang Tian was very happy. Good luck, this trip was worth it. He doesn't even care about the hidden treasures of ancient Wudang. Sigh, after all, he is the ruler of a country. I can't compare with him. Elder Dong Sen was shocked and deeply moved. In the 500 years of Huaxia, in the world of cultivation, only Jiang Tian was as rich as he was. Master Kong. Elder Dong Sen went into the treasure room for a moment and returned with 2 sandalwood boxes in his hands. He respectfully handed them to Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian knew that he didn't do anything. Inside the boxes was a mature Zhenyang grass and an incomplete map of the ruins of immortality. After taking them, Jiang Tian directly put them into his storage ring without saying anything. Then, he looked at Zhang Qianlei and said with a slightly serious expression, "Brother Qianlei, I'm going to refine pills and cultivate in seclusion. It will probably take a month. Maybe even longer." Chapter 684. Old Jiang, don't worry. I'll protect you. Zhang Qianlei waved his hand. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and slowly walked into a large hall. With a wave of his hand, the doors to the hall closed. He sat down cross-legged and flipped his hand. The 5 elements cauldron floated in front of him. The inscriptions on it were ancient and filled with the vicissitudes of time. It was engraved with kuei water, gung metal, wood, and other 5 elements. Its aura flowed and could make up for the lack of pills. Jiang Tian had snatched this cauldron from the Cherry Blossom Association. However, it was still the Dharma treasure of the Elixir Cauldron sect of Huaxia. Jiang Tian only needed to use his true essence and true fire to refine ordinary pills. However, Jiang Tian did not dare to be careless when refining a superior grade pill like the Zhenyang Dragon Tiger Golden Pill. To be safe, he still needed to borrow the power of this cauldron. Zhenyang grass grows in the place where the 9 suns converge. It collects the essence of heavenly fire and is extremely hot. It contains surging fire-type energy. Jiang Tian took out the mature Zhenyang grass and a hint of joy appeared on his face. Supplemented with scarlet flame fruit, orifice opening snow lotus, channel opening golden grass, Jiang Tian took out a bunch of spirit herbs that he had prepared long ago, and said with a serious look in his eyes. It can refine a few Zhenyang Dragon Tiger Golden Pills. The Zhenyang Dragon Tiger Golden Pill can open up meridians and fuse true essence. It's most suitable for people with the gung metal divine body to break through to level 8 Qi refinement. In addition, the back mountain of Wudang is also filled with spirit Qi. There's actually an earth spirit vein hidden under this protective formation. It's several times more powerful than the Dragon Marrow spirit spring in Yuhua Villa. At this moment, a hint of determination flashed in his eyes. This time, I must break through to level 8 Qi refinement. Jiang Tian had cultivated for tens of thousands of years. Although he did not cultivate the Gengjin divine body in his previous life, he had interacted with several powerful cultivators with the same physique and had refined the Zhenyang Dragon Tiger Golden Pill more than once. Therefore, everything was easy for him. Open. Jiang Tian had already made up his mind. Without another word, he flicked his left hand and the lid of the 5 elements pill furnace automatically opened. Xiaochen waved his right hand, and a strand of veritable essence energy condensed into a redly flame. Then, like a nimble little snake, it entered the furnace. When the furnace heated up, under the control of Jiang Tian's spiritual sense, it reached an extremely delicate temperature. Whoosh! Stalks of spirit herbs and great medicines were tossed into the cauldron. Following Jiang Tian's unhurried and methodical refinement, a rich medicinal fragrance immediately filled the air. Inside the main hall, the great medicine's spiritual energy was like soaring dragons and leaping tigers. The dense mist roiled, and various phenomena appeared, almost like heaven. At Jiang Tian's level, it was comparable to an India. Not eating or drinking for several months was no problem at all. When he was thirsty, he would drink a few mouthfuls of spirit liquid, and when he was hungry, he would swallow a few qi-nourishing pills. He didn't leave the room, and immersed himself in alchemy. And just as Jiang Tian was refining pills and advancing towards the 8th level of qi disciple, the outside world began to stir and once again became restless. India. The sun was shining brightly, the sky was clear, and white clouds floated slowly. In a magnificent 1,000-year-old ancient temple, in the main hall of the lecture hall. The yellow bell rang loudly, and green smoke rose in spirals from the incense burner. An eminent monk was sitting cross-legged on the high platform, preaching about Buddhism. Great Master Ji Wu was the #1 eminent monk of the Brahmin. He was the master of the famous Master Qing Lian. His appearance was solemn, and he had a benevolent appearance. Wearing a kasaya, when he preached, his tongue shone like lotus flowers, as if the ground was surging with golden lotuses. Below the platform, there were many believers. They all had their palms together, and their eyes were pious. They listened as if they were enlightened, and there was no lack of politicians, celebrities, and magnates among them. In India, Great Master Ji Wu's position was supreme. Legend has it that if one worshipped him and listened to his preaching, one would be able to obtain great fortune, and great wisdom. One would be able to turn adversity into good fortune, and avoid disaster. Suddenly, a huge dark cloud floated over from the roof of the main hall. The world suddenly became dark, and there were flashes of lightning. Benefactors, today's lecture will end here. All of you, disperse. Suddenly, Great Master Ji Wu's face was shocked. He suddenly raised his head, and his eyes were like two streaks of fire that pierced through the void as he stared at the sky. Great Master Ji Wu, it's rare for us disciples to see you. Please guide us. Below the seat, a luxuriously dressed young man begged. He was the boss of a large software company in India, and his net worth was at least a few billion USD. Yes, I've been waiting to see you for 10 years. It's been so hard to wait. A deputy mayor of Mumbai prostrated himself on the ground and kept kowtowing. He begged bitterly, unwilling to leave. It's a devil. A devil that's hard to meet in 1,000 years. All of you, quickly retreat. Great Master Ji Wu slowly stood up. His eyes were filled with fear as he anxiously shouted, Discipline Hall, Martial Monk Hall, come out and get into formation. A great enemy is attacking. Dang! Dang! The chime of the bell rang rapidly. Footsteps were messy, and people were running around like headless flies. Eminent monks who had attained the Tao rushed over from all directions and gathered in the main hall of the lecture hall. They clustered around Great Master Ji Wu and waited solemnly. These eminent monks were all-powerful and their Dharma power was deep, comparable to a transcendent master, and they had all kinds of powerful Dharma artifacts in their hands. Great Master Ji Wu. Today, I, the Fiend Lord of Hell, will meet you. Boom. A thick and viscous black qi as thick as a bucket rushed in from the entrance of the main hall like a black dragon. The black qi swirled and receded in the center of the hall, and a handsome young man with a graceful bearing suddenly appeared. Devil, you're full of fiend flames and murderous intent. You're really an evil thing that's rarely seen in 1,000 years. Great Master Ji Wu shouted. If you're willing to convert to Buddhism, I'll use the Buddha's illumination scripture to purify you and get rid of your murderous intent. Otherwise, you'll definitely bring disaster to the world and you won't have a good ending. Ha, you're still talking when you're about to die. Nya Mingyuan stepped forward and said with a disdainful smile, what bullshit Buddha Lord, what enlightened monk, in front of me, the Zhenyu Demon Lord, they are all trash. He laughed sinisterly and said. Today, I'll kill all of you and extract your karma, willpower, 3 souls, 6 spirits, and all your cultivation for my use. Good, good, good. As the saying goes, if I don't enter hell, who will? Great Master Ji Wu was enraged and shouted. Since you don't want to submit, I can only start a massacre today and get rid of a big scourge for the world. Clang! The Buddha's light spread and golden light flowed like mercury. Great Master Ji Wu attacked with more than a dozen top Dharma artifacts toward Nie Mingyuan. Kill him! Seeing Great Master Ji Wu attack, all the eminent monks attacked together. Their attacks were extremely powerful, as if they were going to destroy the world. Roar! Nie Mingyuan roared and suddenly revealed the true form of the fiend god. His body became indomitable and 7 to 8 meters tall, breaking through the roof of the main hall. 9 dragon-like demons rushed out from behind him and opened their bloody mouths, biting in all directions. Ah! Ah! Let me go! He's so powerful! Shrill screams and exclamations sounded. Many of the eminent monks' Dharma artifacts and attacks were shattered in an instant. The 9 demons swallowed the eminent monks one by one like whales swallowing cows. They did not even struggle before they turned into pus and blood and were absorbed by Nie Mingyuan. Torrential black fiend qi swept in all directions. Wherever it passed, the eminent monks immediately stiffened and fell to the ground. Their blood essence and souls were sucked dry, turning into withered corpses that were all skin and bones. Ji Wu, your karma and willpower is so deep. You are the best resource for me. Nie Mingyuan opened his bloody mouth and his teeth that were as sharp as swords were dripping with blood. Sticky saliva flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were cold and greedy as he stared at Great Master Ji Wu. I'll cover you. Run. Seeing this, Grandmaster Ji Wu was alarmed and cried out loudly. This demon was too powerful. Even all his Dharma artifacts were shattered in an instant. He was afraid that today would be a disaster. You're quite merciful. I'll fulfill your wish. Roar. Nie Mingyuan suddenly bent over, and his head flew more than 10 meters away from his body and swallowed Great Master Ji Wu. Great Master Ji Wu roared and wailed. His head's mouth opened and closed rapidly. Blood splattered and pieces of his internal organs flew everywhere. Great Master Ji Wu had already been bitten into pieces. The headless body continued to chase after the eminent monks. The 9 demons tore and devoured crazily. After swallowing Great Master Ji Wu, all the eminent monks died. Nie Mingyuan's head flew back to his body. Burp. Fresh blood, brain matter, willpower, essence qi. So delicious. Only this old monk's skin and flesh are a bit dry. He twisted his neck and burped in satisfaction. At this moment, his fiend qi was even more viscous and thick like black glue. It seemed to be 10 times more vigorous than before. The next moment, he turned into a black light and flew out. He did not even look at those ordinary people. Half an hour later, when everything had calmed down, the believers and the police who came after hearing the news entered the main hall. They saw blood and corpses everywhere on the ground. Blood qi soared into the sky and killing intent surged. Great Master Ji Wu did not even leave behind a corpse. Where is Great Master Ji Wu? Even Great Master Ji Wu was killed. What kind of demon is this? A believer screamed. More than 300 eminent monks died. Brahmin, today, your entire sect will be wiped out. An old monk prostrated himself on the ground and wailed in despair. Several days later, Eastern Europe, Romania, Transylvania ancient town. Under the cold sky, dark clouds rolled and icy rain fell. Chilly winds blew and a bolt of lightning streaked across the night sky. A Gothic castle covered in vines stood on a reef that protruded out of the sea by the Black Sea. A few seabirds stood quietly by the window, using their beaks to comb their feathers that were wet from the heavy rain. Suddenly, the seabirds looked at the sky in the distance and screeched in panic. It was as if something terrifying was coming. One by one, the seabirds fled in panic, flying in all directions. The next moment, a few black figures wearing black cloaks shot out from the depths of the clouds like arrows. Those wide bat-like wings retracted, and the black figures landed on the pointed roof of the castle. Boom! A thick bolt of lightning flashed in the depths of the clouds, illuminating the world in an instant. With the help of the flash of lightning, one could see that these people had handsome faces, but their skin was abnormally pale. They had a demonic aura and sharp fangs at the corners of their blood-red mouths. If an expert familiar with the dark world saw this, he would definitely exclaim in shock. These were actually Count-level and Duke-level kindred mighty figures. Blood chi surged and killing intent surged. Their strength was comparable to a transcendent master in Hua Xia, a kendo grandmaster in Japan, or a mixed martial arts master in the West. One of the vampires distorted and dissipated, turning into a thick black smoke. Like a gecko, he climbed to the side of the window that was filled with biblical stories and condensed his original body again to peek inside. Chapter 685. Kiki, he's still here as expected. Van Helsing, ranked 8th on the power rankings 100 years ago, the #1 demon hunter in the West. He's on par with Zeus of the Holy Knights of the previous generation. The vampire's eyes shot out a venomous light as he licked the long saliva at the corner of his mouth with his scarlet tongue. Ugly bastards, I'm guarding the ancient town of Transylvania. You still dare to come and seek death? A shout came from the depths of the ancient castle. Pa! The window glass shattered, and the fragments danced like butterflies. A few silver bullets engraved with complicated patterns shot at the chest of the Count-level vampire at a speed faster than a sniper rifle bullet. Blood splattered. In the blink of an eye, it was burned dry by the bright holy light emitted by the silver bullets and turned into black smoke. Ah! The vampire screamed at the sky and fell onto the marble floor of the courtyard. A large hole appeared in his chest, charred black by the holy light. Black smoke billowed out, and even his sternum was burned. Whoosh! The vampire didn't have time to repair his broken body. He nimbly flipped over and was about to fly up. Kaboom! A tall and imposing figure broke through the glass window and descended from the sky, pouncing toward the vampire like a vulture. Van Helsing's move was fast. He nimbly turned in midair, and the silver longsword in his hand unleashed a holy light slash. Holy light filled the air, and the sword aura slashed the vampire like a sharp bolt of lightning. Ah! The vampire howled miserably at the sky. Blinding holy light radiated from his body, illuminating his bones and internal organs so clearly that they could see them. That powerful body that could withstand bullets was actually burned by the holy light on the silver sword, and it exploded with a loud bang. Red broken bones and debris flew everywhere with sparks, falling to the ground and disappearing in the blink of an eye. Jack, Sinbad, Carrie. My old friends, according to the covenant from 100 years ago, you have already left Romania. Why don't you abide by the covenant? Van Helsing sneered as he stepped out with his big feet in high leather boots and stepped on a piece of bone that was still burning. A bolt of lightning flashed, and Van Helsing's curly chestnut-colored hair draped over his shoulders could be seen. Under his black top hat, his eyes shone with a sharp light. He had a full beard, which made him look handsome, tough, and unruly. The black leather suit outlined his tall and mighty body. There were many small pockets on the inner leather vest, each of which held various weapons. He carried a silver crossbow engraved with complicated incantations on his back and held an equally exquisite silver longsword made by an alchemist. He gave off an extremely powerful feeling. This is the Blood Tribe's territory. You've occupied it for too long. It's time for you to return it to us. Dracula flung his black cloak and took a step forward. He hovered above Van Helsing, his eyes burning with fighting spirit. Over the past 100 years, you've killed hundreds of members of the Blood Clan. Your body is stained with the blood of my people. Today, you must pay with your blood. Step by step, Sinbad stepped through the air. His pale face was distorted as he roared with hatred. Van Helsing, we're going to break your neck, drink your blood, and turn you into our most loyal blood slave. Many powerful members of the Blood clan stepped forward. Their scarlet tongues rolled up the saliva at the corners of their mouths, and sharp bone hooks extended from their fingernails. Vampire hunters, it's my glorious mission to protect the bright and holy world and kill you filthy monsters. Van Helsing's fighting spirit surged, and his hair flew like a waterfall. Dazzling holy light spread out from his feet and lifted him up. Die! He charged forward, brandishing his silver longsword and slashing at the many great experts of the Blood clan. Van Helsing, you will fall today. We'll kill you until you despair. 7 or 8 dukes and earls of the Blood clan, each of them as powerful as a transcendent master. Their bloodlines were powerful, they were almost immortal, and they had many secret blood spells. They fought with Van Helsing. Clang! 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 In an instant, a monstrous battle broke out. In the sky, a few figures were chasing each other and could cross hundreds of meters in an instant. Clusters of blood arrows burst out, and blood spells floated in the sky. Beams of holy light and sword auras swept in all directions. This area was suffused with holy light and bloody chi. Flowing lights overflowed with colors and energy filled the sky. Rumble. The sword auras and blood blades created deep pits on the marble floor, and the exquisite stone sculptures shattered like plastic bubbles. A series of shocking cracks appeared on the outer wall of the ancient castle, and it was on the verge of collapsing. The violent sound waves were like rolling thunder, roaring over the entire ancient castle. As expected of the 8th place on the power ranking 100 years ago, Van Helsing was indeed very powerful. He had evolved and used all kinds of spells to restrain the vampires. Beams of holy light easily gathered and turned into fierce attacks. A silver sword flashed across the sky, flashing with cold light. The crossbow containing garlic extract shot out like a meteor, and he used all kinds of secret spells easily. He was a bounty hunter who specialized in restraining the vampires, and the divine powers he displayed were on par with the main gods of the pantheon. He had definitely reached the peak of the immortal state. The more the vampires fought, the more shocked they became. They were completely suppressed by Van Helsing. Duke Dracula and many Blood clan members were seriously injured, with broken arms and legs. They were also controlled by secret spells and could not regenerate in a short time. Okay, you guys step back. Leave it to me. Just as the vampires were complaining incessantly, the figure standing on the dome spoke indifferently. Yes, Demon Lord. We are incompetent. Please punish us, Demon Lord. The vampires retreated and landed behind the figure, half kneeling on the ground with fear and respect in their eyes. Who could make these count-level vampires so respectful? Van Helsing's body trembled slightly as he looked at the figure in shock. He muttered in disbelief, that's right. He muttered in disbelief, could it be a first-generation vampire? No. Not the first generation of vampires, but an Asian? How can it be? Van Helsing, kneel and beg for mercy. Become my slave. Let's deal with Kang Tae-chu together, and I'll spare your life. The demon lord ignored the kneeling vampires and suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in front of Van Helsing. What a fast movement technique! Van Helsing could now clearly see that this person's face was handsome and delicate, but he was emitting a monstrous demonic aura. This demonic aura was many times stronger than that of vampires and werewolves. It was as sharp as a knife, almost tangible. Van Helsing was an expert on the power rankings 100 years ago. He had lived for 200 years and was undefeated in 10,000 battles. He had killed vampires, captured evil witches, exterminated evil spirits, and defeated werewolves. His heart was tenacious and powerful. But at this moment, facing this demonic aura, he was actually terrified. His legs went soft, and he wished he could escape. Although he was terrified, his honor as a vampire bounty hunter drove him to not back down. He raised his sword warily and said proudly, "You are a demon. I, Van Helsing, a sacred bounty hunter, will never make a deal with a demon. Then you can only die." This person only smiled indifferently. 2 black demons surged out from behind him like giant dragons. In an instant, the 2 demons covered the sky and swept in all directions, covering half of the ancient castle. They opened their mouths and bit toward Van Helsing. Kill! An unprecedented sense of crisis welled up in Van Helsing's heart. His eyes were cold as he clasped his hands together and crushed the ancient cross stained with blood. This blood cross was stained with a drop of holy blood that flowed out of Jesus during his crucifixion. There were only a few in the Holy See. It was as sacred as the Holy Grail. This was a reward given to him by the previous red-robed archbishop for his meritorious service in slaying demons. The moment the cross shattered, a destructive holy light burst out. The enormous holy light was dazzling and illuminated a radius of several kilometers. It was as if 10,000 tons of explosives had exploded out of thin air. Ah, holy blood and holy light! Retreat! I'm going to be burned to death. Many vampires were in so much pain that they were about to explode. They screamed in shock and retreated without caring about their manners. Even a peak-stage immortal state overlord or a duke-level vampire would be purified and killed by it. Haha, it's just holy blood and holy light. That Chinese youth didn't even bother to move. He just looked at Van Helsing mockingly as if he was looking at a dead man. Roar! Sure enough, the 2 demons didn't dodge when they saw the holy light. Instead, they opened their mouths and swallowed the surging holy light in the blink of an eye. What? Van Helsing was shocked and couldn't believe it. He stood there stiffly with despair in his eyes, as if he had seen the end of earth and humanity. That was the holy blood of Jesus. It had such powerful strength that it could easily kill Earl or even Lord-level vampires. However, it had been devoured so easily by these 2 devils. The next moment, Van Helsing was plunged into darkness because one of the demons was biting his upper body. The other was biting his legs. The 2 suddenly struggled, and blood spurted out as internal organs flowed out. Smack! Smack! Peace was restored in the ancient castle. Van Helsing was devoured by the 2 demons in the blink of an eye with a grating sound of chewing. The 2 demons licked their tongues and suddenly rolled and shrank into the body of the Huaxia man. Delicious. So comfortable. So exuberant. It feels so good to have power. At that moment, it was as if he had taken drugs. His eyes suddenly lit up with excitement, his face contorted, and the corners of his mouth twitched. Congratulations to the Demon Lord for creating glory again and killing Demon Hunter Van Helsing, 8th on the top 100 years list. Many vampires flew over and bowed respectfully at the feet of the Chinese youth. They trembled, not knowing whether it was out of fear or excitement. Even Duke Dracula's eyes were filled with fear and admiration, like the most loyal servant seeing his master. This youth was Nie Mingyuan, who had killed his way from Southeast Asia to Europe. I've wiped out several territories of the Blood Clan, devoured more than a dozen Duke-level Blood Clan vampires who refused to submit, and many demon hunters. My current strength should be comparable to Jiang Tian, right? He casually grabbed a vampire, opened his bloody mouth, and swallowed him. He then wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and asked casually. Chapter 686. Seeing this, the vampires under his feet trembled even more, but none of them dared to escape, let alone resist. I observed his cultivation level. He should be at the chi refinement stage of an immortal cultivator. Although your demonic body is strong, there is still a gap. In the depths of Nie Mingyuan's mind, the brain-head Taoist laughed strangely. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Why are you in such a hurry, Your Holiness? Let's attack again. Nie Mingyuan snorted and said impatiently, bullshit, it's not late. 10,000 years is too long, seize every minute. Your Holiness, the entire blood race is almost unified now. Many lords and princes have all submitted to you. In the depths of his mind, the soul of the first-generation vampire, Grim, suggested in a muffled voice. Now it's time to attack the Holy See and the Palace of Gods. They are the ones who are truly rich. Nie Mingyuan's expression changed. He was very greedy. Grim, don't mislead your holiness just because you have a grudge against the Holy See. I despise you. In the depths of his mind, the brain-head Taoist touched his chin and said, I'm afraid your holiness's current strength is still not enough to destroy the Holy See. There are real descendants of the human gods there. I think we should go to the Caucasus region and take down the werewolves and shamans first. This way, the entire covenant of darkness will be ours. When that time comes, your holiness will lead the covenant of darkness and bring chaos to the world. We will fight against the Holy See together. Isn't that great? I want to kill that bastard Jiang Tian. Why do I have to attack the Holy See? Nie Mingyuan was extremely unhappy. Demon Lord, calm down, calm down. This is a roundabout way to save the country. A roundabout way to save the country. The two souls trembled in fear and hurriedly explained. The covenant of darkness leads the blood race, werewolves, witches, shamans, and many other powerful forces. However, the Holy See obviously has greater influence in the secular world. If we take down the Holy See, we can even control the entire Europe, and even the entire Western world. Nuclear weapons, electromagnetic cannons, wouldn't it be easy to kill Jiang Tian with them? Humph. Nie Mingyuan was noncommittal. He just snorted impatiently. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, it turned into billowing black demonic chi, which circled around the ancient castle before sweeping into the distance. When Nie Mingyuan's black gas wrapped around them, many of the demon hunters in the castle were deprived of their vitality and turned into dried corpses that fell to the ground. After an unknown amount of time, a half-dead female demon hunter slowly got up. Glancing at the corpses on the ground, she shivered and muttered to herself, Demon, this is a real demon. It's too scary, too powerful. Who can save us? While Nie Mingyuan was conquering cities and territories all over the world, Nie Mingyuan was in a daze. In the ancient Wudang training hall, Jiang Tian's pill refining was coming to an end. Zhengyang Dragon Tiger Gold Core, success. He sat cross-legged on the ground and casually slapped the 5 elements pill furnace, causing the lid to fly up. Several crimson-red pills flew into the air and spun around chaotically. These pills were crystal clear, as if they were carved out of agate. They emitted a bright red light, thousands of auspicious colors, and clouds were rising. In the surging spiritual qi, there were dragons circling, phoenixes soaring, tigers galloping, and tortoises hibernating. There were also the roars of Tao Tai, Tao Wu, and other ancient beasts. It could be said that there were many strange phenomena and thousands of changes in an instant. It was dazzling, and one would be deeply moved at a glance. This is a superior grade spiritual pill, a real spiritual pill. The spiritual qi has turned into a spirit, causing strange phenomena. Jiang Tian was beaming with joy. And, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are actually 9 superior grade spiritual pills. Other than my breakthrough this time, I can still leave a few for Qing'er and the rest. He left one and put the rest into the sky-devouring demonic gourd. The sky-devouring demonic gourd was a spatial treasure. In terms of preserving medicinal properties, it was even better than a storage ring. Even if it was stored for 8 to 10 years, it would not lose any medicinal properties. The pill is finally done. My half a month of hard work was not in vain. Jiang Tian nodded contentedly. Looking at the pill, he pondered for a while and said, I can finally put those few ideas of mine into practice. After taking the Guizhong Cauldron Heavenly Pill and breaking through once, Jiang Tian's cultivation did not improve much in the 5 long months. In the late stage of qi refinement, especially after the phenomenal success of the Gung Metal Divine Body, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth consumed was not enough for a car's worth of spiritual qi to break through. However, the Gung Metal Divine Body was unusual. With his current cultivation and divine powers, he could beat early-stage Foundation Establishment cultivators. Otherwise, he would not have been able to kill a mortal deity, a half-step mortal deity, and 2 peak-stage immortal state cultivators in the blink of an eye. The righteous Yang Dragon Tiger Gold Pellet is the fiercest Yang energy. It contains the most active fire element energy. Not only can it help me break through the shackles of the 7th level of Qi refinement, it can even help me activate my potential and unlock a few new abilities. Jiang Tian thought to himself as he sensed the raging energy in the righteous Yang Dragon Tiger Golden Pill. The Immortal of 9 Swords had reached the level of Sky Immortal, and the mortal deity cultivated by the ancestral master of the Hong sect, Sita Shao, was at least an Earth-level deity. All of this information put a lot of pressure on Jiang Tian. Besides, there were nuclear weapons, electromagnetic cannons, laser cannons, and other powerful weapons in this world. Not to mention, some of the major countries in the world like the United States still had some high-precision weapons hidden at the bottom of their chests. They had always kept these weapons a secret as their final trump card. Although Jiang Tian was able to take missiles head-on, he was still far from being able to take on nuclear weapons head-on. Although he had reached the phenomenal success stage of the gung metal divine body, there were still many divine powers that he had not activated yet. The melting point of titanium alloy was around 1600 degrees Celsius. Jiang Tian's gung metal divine body could withstand lava at 6000 degrees Celsius and lightning at 10,000 degrees Celsius. It was obvious that Jiang Tian's gung metal divine body was stronger than titanium alloy, or even pure titanium. But what was the temperature of a nuclear weapon? It was estimated that the core temperature was over 100 million degrees Celsius and could compress everything into plasma and vaporize in an instant. It could be said that if a superpower really used nuclear weapons, or even a depleted uranium bomb, Jiang Tian would be reduced to ashes. He had successfully attacked France not long after he had killed Professor Zeus and the other overlords. Many superpowers in the European Union were wary of him. Besides, he had shown some restraint and didn't provoke the other countries in the European Union. Sankey and the Rothschild family were also unpopular. In the end, France was the only country that had sent troops. However, if the Eagle faction came to power one day, especially the United States, Russia, and the European Union, they would join forces to wage war against Jiang Tian. By then, Jiang Tian would still be in danger. Unfortunately, there are too few spirit treasures on Earth and the sky-swallowing demon gourd is not a defensive Dharma treasure. Jiang Tian heaved a sigh. In Jiang Tian's opinion, if he wanted to withstand the attacks of Earth-level deities, sky-level deities, nuclear weapons, and electromagnetic cannons, he must have a spirit treasure defensive Dharma artifact or reach the early stage of Foundation establishment. However, it was impossible to reach the early stage of Foundation establishment or get a spirit treasure defensive Dharma artifact in a short time. The reason was that the spirit chi in this world was too depleted and the cultivation resources were too scarce. Without a defensive Dharma artifact, reaching the level of Foundation establishment is also an extravagant hope. Now, I can only use a few divine powers of the gung metal divine body. Jiang Tian's eyes narrowed and his thoughts gradually became clear. After the 7th level, Jiang Tian could use the Time Stop divine powers and the Eternal Banishment divine powers. However, these divine powers were against the laws of nature and would consume too much energy for Jiang Tian's current level of cultivation. There are only 2 ways to resist the attacks of the outside world, escape or fight. Jiang Tian heaved a sigh and said, then I'll start with these 2 divine powers, the body movement technique and the defensive divine powers. In an instant, Jiang Tian's mind was filled with many divine powers suitable for the gung metal divine body. Earth escape technique, no. This body technique requires the earth spirit physique, it's not suitable for me. 9 transformations of Gale. The cultivation conditions are too harsh. I need to be next to a spacetime crack and absorb the cosmic wind for my own use. It would be strange if I could find a spacetime crack now. My divine sense can't even cover the earth. Blood escape divine robe? No, it consumes too much blood essence. It's more suitable for Foundation establishment cultivators with stronger bloodlines. With my cultivation, I'll be exhausted after a few runs. In the blink of an eye, thousands of divine powers floated through Jiang Tian's mind and were all rejected by Jiang Tian. In the end, Jiang Tian slapped his thigh and sighed. I'm not stupid. The most suitable body protection divine powers for the gunmetal divine body is the indestructible golden body. The indestructible golden body was the divine powers that came with the gunmetal divine body. It was a technique that could break up one's body and then reform it. However, Jiang Tian had failed to activate it several times before. Jiang Tian also understood the reason. The gunmetal divine body was too solid and hard. It was extremely difficult to break up one's body and reform it again. So much so that Jiang Tian didn't have much hope. But it was different now. Jiang Tian's righteous Yang Dragon Tiger Golden Core was the most active. It could stimulate his potential and greatly increase the chances of activating the indestructible golden body. As for body techniques, why don't I cultivate the distanceless and seamless secret technique of the star-picking sect? Jiang Tian's eyes lit up again. The distanceless and seamless secret technique. It was a low-level secret technique that could shrink the ground into an inch and travel thousands of miles in an instant. If Jiang Tian mastered it, his speed would be at least 5 times faster than the speed of sound. Advanced missiles are basically at Mach 3 or 4, and nuclear warheads are loaded on the missiles. It's limited by this speed. If I really master this body technique, even if I don't cultivate the indestructible golden body, I'll still be able to run away. I'll be running Jiang in the future. Speaking of which, the star-picking sect, a third-rate sect that specializes in stealing, has other strengths. Jiang Tian shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Let's start cultivating. The next moment, he revealed his gunmetal divine body and slowly swallowed the righteous Yang Dragon Tiger Golden Core. Cultivate. Jiang Tian suddenly felt a sharp pain all over his body. It was as if he was being burned by fire. His blood boiled and boiled, as if it was about to dry up. His organs felt like they were about to turn into ashes. His skin glowed with a golden light, as if it was about to crack. Black smoke spewed out of Jiang Tian's orifices, followed by red flames. Jiang Tian looked like a fire-breathing demon. If one used their divine senses to look inside, they would be shocked to see. At this time, Jiang Tian's organs, bones, muscles, blood vessels, and nerves, everything had turned into a golden liquid. It was surging, flowing, and quickly reforming. Chapter 687. The gunmetal divine body was in between a liquid and a gas state. Many granules were formed and filled the air. Refine. Jiang Tian kept refining the Zhenyang Dragon Tiger Golden Core. In the end, all the gunmetal in his body turned into a gas state. Jiang Tian's body also expanded a few times and became 12 meters tall. His head was close to the roof of the palace, like a balloon that had been blown up. Suddenly, the golden lake in Jiang Tian's forehead flickered. Golden runes appeared in the gunmetal divine body. The runes spread from the endless void. More and more of them were densely packed like sand in the Ganges River. Moreover, every single talisman carried profound meaning, and every single word was like a gem that contained the laws of the heavens and the earth and Grand Tao secret techniques. These runes were impervious to fire and water. They weren't even afraid of the high temperature and flames created by the Zhenyang Dragon Tiger Golden Core. After a series of flashes, the runes started to combine with every gunmetal particle in Jiang Tian's body. Every time they combined, the sound of heaven and earth would be heard from Jiang Tian's body. It was like the sound of a golden bell and heavenly music, giving people a feeling of holiness, vastness and glory. After a few days of hard work, every gunmetal particle in Jiang Tian's body finally combined with a rune. Boom! At this time, Jiang Tian's body emitted thousands of rays of golden light, thousands of auspicious colors, clouds and rosy clouds. All kinds of strange phenomena appeared and were extremely dazzling. In addition, the sound of heaven and earth from his body was endless. Jiang Tian's temperament had changed. It was as if a Buddha had come to the mortal world with his feet on a lotus platform, or a true God who looked down on the world. Jiang Tian suddenly opened his eyes and showed a hint of joy. Every tiny gunmetal particle in my body is engraved with the immortal golden body divine ability runes. And these runes can be connected to my divine consciousness. I can change my form at will now. If I want to go into the void, I can spread it dozens of kilometers in an instant. It's even emptier than a vacuum. There's less than 1 gung metal particle per cubic meter. Even a nuclear explosion can't destroy it. Jiang Tian looked arrogant, as if he could pierce through the entire blue planet with his sword and stomp on a part of the universe. If you want to solidify it, it can instantly become 10 times more solid than diamond and titanium alloy, and its lethality will multiply. At this time, Zhang Qianlei was sitting cross-legged under a pine tree outside the main hall. Tang Linglong was standing behind him. Beside her, Dong Sen and several other elders were cautiously attending to him. Suddenly, a vast aura of Gung Jin surged out from the hall where Jiang Tian was. Rumble. A Gungjin deity shadow that was more than hundreds of meters tall and looked like a mountain appeared in the air. This golden statue was somewhat faint. It wore a dragon robe and was covered in armor. It had a crown on its head, and its body was straight. It gave people the feeling that it was standing on the ground and supporting the sky. At the same time, a ferocious aura came crashing down. Hiss. This, such a huge statue of a god. Could it be that a true god has come out of the mountains? Dong Sen and many other elders of the Wudang sect looked up and exclaimed. They all gasped as if they had seen a ghost. They were shocked to see that countless spiritual chi of heaven and earth were immediately devoured and turned into a part of the indestructible golden body. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was swirling uneasily. It was so dense that it was like clouds and mist. The speed of devouring was so fast that the friction between the air currents created flashes of lightning. This is Kang Teichu's breakthrough and condensed the indestructible golden body. I didn't expect it to be so powerful. Zhang Qianlei exclaimed in disbelief. Even with his cultivation at the peak of the half-step human immortal realm, he was still frightened when facing the golden body. He couldn't help but take a few steps back. Rumble. As Jiang Tian changed his cultivation method, the indestructible golden body disappeared and suddenly appeared in the main hall. The uneasy spiritual chi of heaven and earth gradually calmed down. Indestructible golden body, what is indestructible? A trace of pride flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes and he sighed. Between life and death, there is a heart that can be switched at will. Existence and nothingness are under my control. That is indestructible. The experiment proved that the indestructible golden body was very easy to use. It disappeared in an instant and then condensed a few kilometers away. Then, after being nourished by the Zhengyang Dragon Tiger Golden Core, Jiang Tian's cultivation also reached the 8th level of qi refinement. He was very close to the foundation establishment. Jiang Tianjin felt a sense of ecstasy. After stabilizing this divine ability, Jiang Tian began to try to activate the seamless body technique divine ability. Whoosh! At the same time, Jiang Tian began to devour the spiritual qi of the earth veins under the Wudang mountain. Every time he breathed, he devoured a mass of spiritual qi of the earth veins like a giant whale sucking in water. In just the time of a few breaths, it actually caused the sect guarding grand formation that was based on this formation to almost collapse, and it directly shocked Elder Dong Sen and the others to the point their souls almost left their bodies. Zhang Qianlei thought that since Jiang Tian had broken through so quickly, he would definitely come out of seclusion after a month. He didn't expect that Jiang Tian hadn't come out of seclusion for another month and a half. Zhang Qianlei was anxious and he couldn't help but stomp his feet. It's not a big deal to be in seclusion. The key is that the deity of 9 swords is about to open. What if someone else takes the initiative? Old Jiang. Why is he addicted to cultivation? Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Zhang Qianlei was so anxious that he scratched his head and was about to kick the door open and enter the main hall. Suddenly. Boom! There was a loud bang. The entire main hall exploded. Bricks and tiles flew everywhere and smoke billowed as if 10,000 tons of explosives had exploded. An unparalleled and enormous imposing aura rose steadily and shot into the 9 heavens, causing the clouds and mist to roil. The majestic and towering peak of the entire Wudang mountain trembled violently. Rings of clouds rippled out for more than 10 kilometers. Zhang Qianlei was the first to bear the brunt and was thrown hundreds of meters away. Fortunately, he didn't spit out a mouthful of blood. As for the many elders of the Wudang sect, some of them rolled their eyes and fell to the ground stiffly, while others were sent flying backward with blood spurting out of their mouths. No way, old Jiang, he broke through again. Zhang Qianlei stepped on the void and exclaimed repeatedly. He felt the powerful energy as if he had seen a ghost. Even with his vast knowledge, he had never seen such a powerful aura before. He suspected that this was a real Earth-level deity, or even stronger than an Earth-level deity and comparable to a sky immortal. Just the energy that burst out unintentionally at the moment of the breakthrough had thrown him hundreds of meters away. If he had done it deliberately, he could have killed him with just a raise of his hand. No, I have to work hard on my cultivation. Old Jiang is too fast. If I don't improve, how can I be a good friend? Zhang Qianlei suddenly felt a little pressure and a little disappointed. He felt that in front of Jiang Tian's terrifying strength, not to mention Yi Tianren, even the Kunlun sect master Lin Qingyang was slightly inferior. However, what surprised Zhang Qianlei was that after the energy rose to a peak, it slowly fell back and finally stabilized at a slightly inferior level. But this, slightly inferior, was only relative. In terms of absolute value, it was still quite powerful. Just as Zhang Qianlei was puzzled, Jiang Tian walked out of the billowing smoke and dust. He didn't have any energy at all, as if he was an ordinary person. This should be an extremely brilliant qi concealment technique. Zhang Qianlei's heart skipped a beat and he quickly flew over. Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and said with a free and easy smile, "Brother Qianlei, you weren't hurt just now, were you?" Although Zhang Qianlei's chest was in pain from the shock, he still smiled proudly and said stubbornly, "Old Jiang, with your cultivation, how could you hurt me? Isn't our cultivation about the same?" "That's true." Jiang Tian didn't expose him and asked with a smile, "How long have I been in seclusion this time?" 2 months. Zhang Qianlei glared and said, "Let's go quickly. If we don't go to the Immortal of 9 Swords' treasure, someone else will take the first place." 2 months, Jiang Tian's divine sense swept over the earth chi's spiritual vein that was about to dry up, and he felt a little regretful. If there was enough earth chi's spiritual vein, he could smoothly break through to the 9th level of chi refinement. But now, he was only at the 8th level of chi refinement. In fact, even if there wasn't enough earth chi, he could still force a breakthrough. But if the foundation was unstable, it would be a hidden danger for breaking through to the basic level of foundation establishment. Jiang Tian still didn't do that. Jiang Tian, who had been cultivating for thousands of years and had rich experience, naturally wouldn't make such a mistake of seeking instant benefits. However, it's really time to go to the Immortal of 9 Swords' treasure. Jiang Tian said with a smile. "Master, are you leaving?" At the gate of the courtyard, a graceful figure flashed out. Tang Linglong looked at Jiang Tian with a face full of reluctance. Jiang Tian nodded and said with a loving smile, now that you have ascended to the position of the sect leader of Wudang, I have made a soul contract with several elders. They will be loyal and devoted. I am relieved that you are safe and sound." Tang Linglong hesitated for a moment and asked softly, "Master, besides Master's wife, can there be any other woman in your heart?" "Why do you ask?" Jiang Tian was surprised. "Master, I want to know." Tang Linglong hugged Jiang Tian's hand and said coquettishly. She found that Jiang Tian's hand was more slender and fair than a girl's. "No." Jiang Tian shook his head gently. Tang Linglong's heart sank and her face suddenly dimmed. Then, she asked absent-mindedly, "Master, is there no place for me in your heart?" "Of course there is." Jiang Tian gently pulled his hand away and said with a loving smile, "I treat you like a daughter. When you are bullied, of course I will support you. How about it? Are you satisfied this time? I will even give Chen Anping, Master." Tang Linglong suppressed the grief and anger in her heart, but she still could not help but clench her fist and shout, "Daughter! You actually treat me like a daughter. Can't I walk into your heart?" Jiang Tian closed his eyes and shook his head slowly. When he opened his eyes again, there was a bit more coldness in his eyes. He looked solemn and said lightly, "Linglong, you shouldn't talk to me like this. And you shouldn't say such words. Why can Huang linger? Answer me." Tang Linglong angrily questioned, her eyes red and her delicate body trembling. I owe her a life." Jiang Tian shook his head helplessly. "Besides, she and I are like a teacher and a friend, like family. This kind of relationship is hard to define. You are still young, you don't understand. When you grow up, you will understand. You owe her a life, but I can also die for you." Tang Linglong begged with tears in her eyes. "Master, didn't you see? If you didn't come on the day of the sect competition, I would have died. But when I was in danger, I didn't have a trace of regret or fear. I even yearned for it. Yes, I yearned to die for you." Crystal tears rolled down her beautiful face like a pear blossom in the rain. She said in a trembling voice, "I think, as long as I die for you, you will definitely remember me and think of me often. You will even give me a little love." Chapter 688. Long. Jiang Tian frowned and scolded in a cold voice, "What nonsense are you thinking? Master, I love you. I don't want to be your disciple, nor do I want to be your daughter. I want to be your woman." Tang Linglong stomped her feet and shouted angrily. Her hair was flying, and her tears were flowing. Then, she hugged Jiang Tian and begged. "Master, since you can accept Huang Linger, why can't you accept me? I want to follow you, serve you, and take care of you for the rest of my life. Even if I'm just a maid." "Nonsense." Jiang Tian glared at her and flung her away. Boom. Tang Linglong staggered back. Jiang Tian said expressionlessly, "If you still want to see me, then put away this evil thought. If you can't do it, I won't recognize you as my disciple in the future. You and I will break up." Jiang Tian said coldly. Tang Linglong seemed to have been struck by lightning. Her face was as pale as paper. After trembling for a while, she froze on the spot. Why? She was like a mummy whose soul had been sucked out. Her eyes were dull and lifeless. She questioned, "How can my love for you become an evil thought?" She whined like a wounded animal. Every word was sad and desperate. Her voice was sorrowful. "Am I so unbearable? Am I so unworthy of your attention? Or is it because of the existence of Zhao Xueqing and Huang Linger, so there is no place for me? Think whatever you want." A trace of pain flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes. But the next moment, he flung his sleeves and turned around resolutely. "In short, it's impossible between us. Don't force yourself." He strode toward Mount Wuqian. His movement technique was very fast. With a single step, he covered hundreds of meters. After a few strides, he disappeared from sight. Then, he stepped into the sky and disappeared into the vast sea of clouds. "Ha, old Jiang, you're like an old dog running away." Zhang Qianlei commented with a venomous tongue. He leaped onto his sword and followed. "Old man, you're so bad." Jiang Tian scolded angrily. "Are you laughing at me? You motherfucker, you're an old virgin who's been single for over 100 years. You're the old dog. Single old dog." Jiang Tian and Zhang Qianlei left for a long time. Tang Linglong slowly came back to her senses. Hee, evil thoughts. How is it evil thoughts? She smiled sadly. Then, her gaze gradually became firm as she said coldly, "There's no such thing as first come, first served in love. I only know that I love you, and I want you." In the eyes of Tang Linglong, nothing is impossible in this world. "You don't want me to force it, but I'm going to force it." Jiang Tian and Zhang Qianlei only flew a few dozen kilometers before they switched to a car when they reached Shiyan City. Hee, old Jiang, you're really charming. On the car to the airport, Zhang Qianlei was eating oranges bought by the roadside and smirked. Will you die if you don't gloat? Jiang Tian rolled his eyes at him. However, this girl really likes you. Zhang Qianlei said, what you said just now was too cruel. You shouldn't have hurt her. It's better to have a short pain than a long pain. Jiang Tian said worriedly. Otherwise, she'll form an inner demon, which will form shackles on her cultivation and even be used by others. The consequences will be unimaginable. Alas, inner demon, inner demon. It's easy to break the inner demon, but difficult to break the inner demon. Zhang Qianlei sighed. I think this girl's inner demon has already formed. The deeper her feelings for you, the bigger the inner demon will be. Sigh. Jiang Tian sighed, unable to voice his bitterness. He didn't want to erase Tang Linglong's memory. Once it backfired, it would form an even more serious inner demon. What's next? Zhang Qianlei scratched his head and asked. Originally, Jiang Tian could have asked Tang Linglong to book plane tickets for them, but now, he had to avoid her. I'm going to Hong Kong first. Jiang Tian immediately made up his mind. Why are you going to Hong Kong? Zhang Qianlei shook his head and said, it's a small place. There's nothing fun there. Hurry up and go to Severnaya Zemlya. Alas, Qin Jinming and my cousin Jiang Lin are holding a big wedding in Hong Kong. I have to be there to congratulate them. Jiang Tian's eyes showed a trace of vicissitudes and affection. In his previous life, Qin Jinming was almost beaten to death by the three major families of Jinling in the financial war to protect the Medicine King Group. He was burdened with a huge debt and went overseas. The Jiang family lost and Jiang Lin fell from the altar. She went from being the little princess of the Jiang family to an ordinary working girl. Neither of them mentioned their feelings for each other. In his previous life, when Jiang Lin and Qin Jinming were old, would they think of each other and feel sad for their relationship that ended without a cause? But in this life, everything was different. With Jiang Tian's help, Qin Jinming's net worth was over $10 billion. The One Eye Fund was now the #1 hedge fund on Wall Street. Other than that, he was also the chief consultant of Sidoni's financial committee. He was in his prime and had a bright future ahead of him. Jiang Lin was now the vice president of the Medicine King Group and an executive of Xing Yuan Immortal Healing Village. She was one of the most popular people in the world. After many years of cooperation, the two of them grew closer and closer. Finally, it was time for them to get married. Even with Jiang Tian's 10,000 years of vicissitudes of life, seeing the two of them tied the knot was like watching two juniors grow up, mature, and start a family. Qin Jinming and Jiang Lin's wedding was also a big event. His childhood friends, Zhen Shuai, Tan Guangxiu, and Cheng Yi all went to Hong Kong to attend the wedding. Jiang Tian did not know when he would leave the earth. This might be one of the few gatherings that he would have with his childhood friends. He had to cherish it. Ha, is this girl a fan of foreign things? Isn't it good to get married in Sidoni? Zhang Qianlei said indignantly. That's not the reason, Jiang Tian smiled and explained. I heard that there are staff members in Hong Kong to promote the Immortal Healing Village and review the information submitted by the tycoons. Jiang Lin has been working in Hong Kong recently. Besides, Qin Jinming is planning to enter Hong Kong's financial market and set up a branch company. He wants to use the wedding as an opportunity to shine. Therefore, Jiang Tian and Zhang Qianlei split up at the Hankow International Airport. Zhang Qianlei went to Russia and went to Sword Tomb Island first. Jiang Tian flew to Jinling to visit his father. After all, it was the Spring Festival of 2011 and Jiang Zhixing was quite lonely in Jinling. Jiang Tian was now a citizen of Sidoni, but he had always been close to Huaxia, so he had already applied for a Hong Kong passport. The mansion on Fulong Mountain was sold to Zhen Shuai at a discount. Zhen Shuai transformed the place into a health resort. In fact, The remaining spirit qi there was very little, but it was still very attractive to many rich and upper-class people. It had become the most famous health resort in East China. Jiang Zhixing was now living in the provincial family residence. Cheng Yi and his son were in charge of protecting him, but Su Zhenlei and Su Ruoqing were also there secretly. "Son, you've been gone for more than half a year. Let's have a good drink today." When he saw Jiang Tian, Jiang Zhixing was overjoyed. He had thought that he would spend the holiday alone, but he didn't expect his son to come back. He personally cooked for Jiang Tian. He often cultivated, so his complexion was very good. He was in high spirits and was about to enter the early stage of qi refinement. "Dad, did anyone come here recently? Or did they encounter something strange?" Jiang Tian scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and immediately found that there was a sinister and terrifying fiend qi in the surroundings. This fiend qi was very similar to the fiend qi Jiang Tian had encountered at the back of Wudang Mountain. Upon closer inspection, the layers of protective arrays that he had set up around Jiang Zhixing had already begun to crack. These cracks definitely wouldn't have formed naturally. Either a powerful external force had destroyed them, or the array had been damaged due to the operation of the array. It was quite strange one day. Jiang Zhixing muttered as he stir-fried. "It was a sunny day, but the area where I live was covered with dark clouds and thunder. Tan Guangshu's old man even joked that I had done something bad and that lightning would strike me." That old man. It seems that the fiend body of purgatory was here. What is his background? We still have to investigate carefully. Jiang Tian furrowed his brows tightly and revealed a look of deep thought. He hurriedly repaired several layers of formations. Then, he ran to the study, took out array materials, and quickly drew a fiend suppression array around his father's residence. "I have to give Dad a few more fiend suppression jade talismans later." After setting up all this, Jiang Tian stroked his chin, still worried. "Son, dinner is ready." Jiang Zhixing called from the living room. "Coming." Jiang Tian hurried to the dining room to eat with his father. "How's Dad's cooking?" After Jiang Tian took a bite, Jiang Zhixing asked with a smile. Jiang Tian curled his lips and said, "Far worse than my mom." "You brat." Jiang Zhixing glared at him with dissatisfaction. Then, he sighed and said, "That's right. When your mom was in Jinling, it was just the two of us in Qixia County. You ate my half-cooked rice every day. It must have been hard on you. But Dad, you've improved. At least, it's cooked." Jiang Tian laughed. "Brat, are you praising me or scolding me?" Jiang Zhixing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He raised his wine glass and clinked it with Jiang Tian's. He smiled and said, "Cheers." Although he was a city hall official, Jiang Zhixing lived a simple life. He drank a green bottle of erguote that cost more than 10 yuan a bottle. However, this was to Jiang Tian's liking. He wasn't particular about food and clothing. "Sidonie is doing well. I've seen the news." "Son, you're good." After drinking a few glasses of wine, Jiang Zhixing was in high spirits. He didn't put on airs as a father anymore. He patted Jiang Tian's shoulder and said, "Dad, strictly speaking, you're a naked official. Your wife and children are overseas. I don't think you have much of a future." Jiang Tian said with a smile. "The organization knows about my special situation. When your mom went to Sidonie, it was a wasteland. There was nothing there. It's the poorest and most backward country in the world. It's not like it's a developed country." Jiang Zhixing rolled his eyes at Jiang Tian and shook his head. "The organization trusts me a lot. My work hasn't been affected in any way. So, I can't let the organization down." Jiang Tian took a sip of his wine and said, "Why don't you come to Sidonie? If you want to make a name for yourself, I can get you the position of vice president or minister of construction. If you want to live a comfortable life, you can stay in the immortal healing village." Chapter 689. "Jiang Tian, you don't understand my ideals. Jiang Zhixing's face turned solemn as he said seriously, I was born in a difficult era. I experienced political turmoil, going to the mountains and the countryside, and reforming and opening up. I know that it's not easy for our country to have its current development achievements. If it weren't for the good policies of the party and the country, I wouldn't have had the chance to study, and I wouldn't have known your mother. There wouldn't have been you, the Jiang family, or the Medicine King group. It can be said that I'm full of gratitude to the country and the people. I want to give everything I have to the motherland until I can't do it anymore. So, I won't leave. Jiang Tian sighed in his heart. His father's generation had their persistence and ideals, which were worthy of respect. However, he still said unwillingly, Dad, do you know that you're facing great danger now? I'll feel more at ease if you're by my side. Don't force me. Jiang Zhixing waved his hand and refused. Jiang Tian, Sidonie is your dream. It's my dream to contribute to the prosperity and development of Huaxia's economy and society. You can fight for Sidonie without caring about your own safety, and I can do the same for Huaxia. I know that you're not an ordinary person. Maybe one day you'll leave this world, but I will stay. Jiang Tian was shocked. He looked at his father in disbelief and said, Don't you want to become an immortal, live forever, reach a higher level of life, see a wider universe, and see more beautiful scenery? What you said is very good. It's all very good. Jiang Zhixing picked up the wine glass and drank it in one gulp. He smiled and said, But in my opinion, the best scenery is by my side, and the best place is at home. I'm willing to die here. I don't regret coming to Huaxia in this life, and I'm willing to stay at home in my next life. Jiang Tian, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and this is my final answer. Jiang Tian's hand holding the wine glass trembled slightly. The wine glass seemed to weigh more than 10,000 kilograms, and his expression was very ugly. His original plan was to take all his family members on the ancient path of the stars, and the family would never be separated. However, he didn't expect that before he even found the path, someone would already have a different idea from him. Jiang Tian, we both have our own ideals. I respect your ideals, and you have to respect mine. Seeing Jiang Tian's pale face, Jiang Zhixing couldn't help but sigh. I knew that one day you would have to leave. I don't want you to be unprepared. That's why I'm telling you in advance. He lowered his head in shame and said, Don't blame Dad. Dad doesn't want to drag you down, but, no, Dad, don't be sad, don't blame yourself. I support you and admire you. After a brief pondering, Jiang Tian gradually figured it out and raised his cup with a smile. Although I'm now a citizen of Sidonie, I've never forgotten that I'm a descendant of the Yellow Emperor. I grew up drinking the water of the Yangtze River. Thank you, son. Jiang Tian finally felt relieved. He patted Jiang Tian on the shoulder, his eyes slightly red. After dinner, Jiang Tian washed the dishes. Jiang Zhixing called Jiang Tian to the study and said, I don't have anything to give Qin Jinming and Jiang Lin's wedding, so I wrote a piece of calligraphy. Forever United. Jiang Tian opened the scroll and took a look. He smiled and praised, Dad, your handwriting is not bad. Facial muscles and willow bones, the style of a gentleman. They will definitely like it. Really? Not bad, right? Jiang Zhixing smiled proudly and said, Remember to bring the gift. I'll work overtime tonight. You can sleep at home or go out to play with your friends. Zhen Shuai and the other brats have been talking about you. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded. Also, when you go to Hong Kong, you must pay the Wu family a visit. Suddenly, Jiang Zhixing's face turned serious. I heard that the Wu family is in decline now. If they need help, we have to lend them a helping hand. The Wu family in Hong Kong. We haven't seen each other for years. There's no need. Jiang Tian furrowed his brows and a strange look appeared on his face. The Wu family in Hong Kong was a medium-sized family. In his last life, they were worth 1 to 200 million. Back then, old man Jiang Changgang had cured old man Wu of a strange disease. Old man Wu was very grateful and became Jiang Changgang's sworn brother. When the Medicine King Group was founded, old man Wu had donated a few million yuan. A few million yuan was nothing in the modern era. However, it was a huge sum of money in the 90s. It was the first bucket of gold for the Medicine King Group, and it played a big role in the rise of the Medicine King Group. What was even more interesting was, when Jiang Tian and the Song and Lu families of Yanjin had a conflict, Jiang Tian had expelled Jiang Tian from Jin City. However, he was worried about Jiang Tian's safety and wanted to find a family to marry into. When the Jiang family was looking for a marriage partner for Jiang Tian, the first person they considered was not Zhao Xueqing, but Wu Zhirua from the Wu family of Hong Kong. After all, it was difficult for the Song and Lu families to expand their influence in Hong Kong. Therefore, it was safer for Jiang Tian to marry into the Wu family. However, Wu Zhirua was not interested in Jiang Tian at all. When the two of them met, she said, "I don't like a country bumpkin from the mainland." Then she sent Jiang Tianqi Tenli away. Even though many years had passed, Jiang Tian could still remember the disdainful look on Wu Zhirua's face. Although Jiang Tian had been a cultivator for 10,000 years and had seen a lot of things, Jiang Tian still didn't want to talk to Wu Zhirua. "Jiang Tian, let's not talk about the relationship between your grandpa and old man Wu. Your uncle Wu Buxiong and I have been in contact for years. He even came to Jin City a few days ago and wanted to invest in me." Jiang Zhixing said seriously. "I heard that Wu Buxiong is seriously ill and the Wu family is in decline. We can't ignore the rich and the poor. If we can help, we should help. Your grandpa wanted to treat him personally, but he is in Sidoni, which is too far away. Since you are going to Hong Kong, your grandpa wants you to take a look." He took out 2 business cards and handed them to Jiang Tian. "Jiang Tian, this is Wu Buxiong and Wu Zhirua's contact information. Okay, I will pay Uncle Wu Buxiong a visit." Seeing this, Jiang Tian hurriedly took the name card and agreed. Then, he took out a few demon-suppressing jade talismans and said, "Dad, remember to take these with you." "Okay, I will. Take care." Jiang Zhixing took the talismans and looked into Jiang Tian's eyes, as if he wanted to imprint his son's face in his mind. Then, he turned around and hurried out. After Jiang Zhi left, Jiang Tian sat quietly in the living room, not saying a word for a long time. That night, Jiang Tian met up with Tan Guangxiu, Zhen Shuai, and Cheng Yi. The next day, Zhen Shuai chartered a flight and they took a Boeing 737 to Hong Kong. Zhen Shuai was now rich and overbearing. He wore a Patek Philippe watch and 3 huge gold rings. His hair was slicked back, and his figure was slightly fat. He had the demeanor of a nouveau riche. Su Zhenlei, Tang Shaozi, Bai Choufei, and the others treated him as their brother. Now, his business was booming everywhere and his net worth had reached a few hundred million in just 3 years. He also had 20% of the shares of the airline and was a board member. The VIP passengers were given priority to board the plane. The captain led the crew to greet them. The stewardesses were also carefully selected. Their bodies, appearances, and manners were far better than the average stewardesses. They were kneeling the entire time. The air stewardesses knew Zhen Shuai's identity, so they tried to curry favor with him and were on point. "Sigh, Qin Jinming is so lucky to have Jiang Lin. I am also very handsome, right? Why didn't Jiang Lin like me?" On the plane, Zhen Shuai said with envy. "You are not handsome." Tan Guangxiu rolled his eyes at him. "How can you compare yourself to Qin Jinming? He is a Wall Street elite, and you are just a tycoon." Tan Guangxiu was doing well. After Jiang Zhixing was transferred to the secretary of Jin City, Tan Guangxiu stayed at the Jiangsu Investment Group. He was the Minister of Human Resources and was already a deputy director before the age of 30. "It's not that bad, okay?" Zhen Shuai shook his head and said. "I have a Hong Kong ID card and passport, so I am now a citizen of Hong Kong. I want this stewardess to serve me." Suddenly, Zhen Shuai pointed at a tall stewardess and said. Under everyone's envious gaze, the stewardess was smug. She suppressed her desire to show off and walked to Zhen Shuai. The other stewardesses were envious. They wondered how lucky this girl was to be chosen by the company's independent director. When the stewardess went to get the wine, Cheng Yi turned around and asked, Zhen Shuai, you like her? She is just average looking. Long legs. Don't you know that? Zhen Shuai rolled his eyes. Cheng Yi glared at him and whispered, don't go overboard, Jiang Tian is here. I know. I'll leave my contact details later. We'll talk about it when we get off the plane. Zhen Shuai chuckled. On the way, Jiang Tian chatted and drank all the red wine in the first-class cabin. Zhen Shuai also drank a little too much. In the end, he couldn't hold back and had sex with the stewardess in the bathroom. When a man gets to the top, all his friends and family will follow him. Cheng Yi smiled but didn't say a word. However, he couldn't calm down for a long time. Huaxia had strict control over the internet and all kinds of news were strictly guarded. What Jiang Tian did in France wasn't spread in the country. There was no news on the internet. Only people like Lu Jingguo and Song Beishan knew about it through their own channels. Ordinary people didn't know about it, but Cheng Yi, as an outer disciple of the Taiqing sect, naturally knew about it. It could be said that Tan Guangxiu and Zhen Shuai's achievements today were all brought about by Jiang Tian. Moreover, from the beginning to the end, Jiang Tian didn't say a word and didn't greet anyone. But in Jinling's political and business circles, who dared not to give face to Master Kong? But Jiang Tian was like a god above the 9 heavens. It wasn't easy to curry favor with him. They could only start with the people around Jiang Tian and give Tan Guangxiu and Zhen Shuai a lot of benefits. Seeing that their lives had changed, Jiang Tian also showed a gratified smile. Jiang Tian had a good relationship with these childhood friends, but their roots were too weak. Jiang Tian couldn't bring them to the cultivation world. However, it was not bad for them to be able to live a prosperous life on Earth and live out their lives in peace and safety. Chapter 690. Asia Satellite TV was the earliest Chinese radio station in Hong Kong. In the 80s, it was the dominant channel in Hong Kong and made another TV station, TVB, pale in comparison. However, the tables had turned. Now, Asia Satellite TV had become a laggard due to the internal strife among its shareholders. On the other hand, TVB was thriving. The tiger was sick and it was the best time to hunt it down. At the same time, the unstable ATV had attracted the attention of many hunters and Bai Choufei was one of them. Bai Choufei's Tianga Entertainment had developed rapidly in recent years and had cooperated with South Korean film companies to produce several Sino-Korean co-productions. Not only had he made Li Huiyan famous, but the company's income had also risen and it had become one of the top film and entertainment companies in China. Bai Choufei had invested in the acquisition of Asia Satellite TV and Zhang Huchen had supported him. In fact, there was no need for Jiang Tian to remind him. In the Heavenly Alliance, many business and political factors had merged and become a powerful force. Zhang Huchen and Bai Choufei met at a Heavenly Alliance gathering. Because they were both in the entertainment industry, they hit it off immediately. The two of them had worked together many times and had gained a lot. Bai Choufei was optimistic about Asia Satellite TV's production ability, equipment, copyright, and management team. Sidonie was a hot land with great potential. Now that the economy was developing rapidly, the people's cultural consumption was also rising. After Bai Choufei bought Asia Satellite TV, he set up a national TV station in Sidonie. Bai Choufei's assets were tens of billions of Huaxia dollars, but compared to the top tycoons in Hong Kong, there was still a gap. However, with Zhang Huchen's support, he had an advantage. But with Zhang Huchen's help, the 3 shareholders of ATV were dealt with one by one. Although Jiang Tian had left Huaxia, his influence was growing. In the international community, Sidonie was now one of Huaxia's most important allies. For Jiang Tian's sake, Zhang Zhongguo was the leader of Yanjin, and Zhang Qinzhen and Zhang Qingji had developed and improved. After the Liu and Song families were suppressed, the Zhang family's status rose and they were now one of the top 10 wealthy families in the world. Merchants from the mainland had their roots in the mainland. Everyone knew that behind the Zhang family stood a great god who had defeated the Liu and Song families. Even a red-headed merchant with the CPPCC above his head had to give face to Zhang Huchen. If Bai Qiufei and Zhang Huchen could settle ATV's largest shareholder, the Kai family from Macau, the acquisition of ATV would become possible. However, as the spokesperson of the Kai family in Hong Kong, the Kai family's second young master didn't seem to give Bai Qiufei any face. That's true. The two of them were famous in China, but they couldn't intimidate the Kai family's second young master who could do whatever he wanted in Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. They calmly asked young Master Kai out 3 times, but he still stood them up. Coincidentally, it was Qin Jinming and Jiang Lin's wedding. Both of them came over to congratulate and send gifts. They patiently made an appointment with the second young master of the Kai family for the 4th time. The meeting place was a business club in Central. Bai Qiufei, Zhang Huchen, Zhang Yilin. In addition, Bai Qiufei also brought Li Huiyan, who had just participated in the Spring Festival Gala, and 2 newly promoted female stars. It wasn't that Bai Qiufei wanted to use a honey trap. It was that Li Huiyan heard that Jiang Tian might be attending Jiang Lin's wedding and would arrive in Hong Kong today, so she insisted on coming over and waiting to welcome Jiang Tian together. In front of the luxurious floor-to-ceiling window of the club, Bai Qiufei held a red wine glass and looked down at the bustling streets of Central, feeling the commercial atmosphere far beyond that of Yangqing in the mainland. First sister, is our boss going to meet such an awesome person like Li Zhikai tonight? Among the 3 stars, Tang Yuyu, the youngest female star who became popular because of an idol drama, looked at the handsome and tall Bai Qiufei obsessively and asked Li Huiyan in a low voice. Li Huiyan shook her head and said lightly, "I don't know." Now she had already seen the universe. She had seen the South Korean president bow his head with Jiang Tian, and she and Li Jinju were close friends in the circle. Li Zhikai, the son of Superman Li, was one of the top young masters in Hong Kong. In the eyes of ordinary people, he was like a noble descendant, but in her eyes, he was just so. Zhang Huchen crossed his legs and leaned lazily on the leather sofa. He said angrily, "Kai is arrogant and domineering. If it was before, I would have killed him with one slap. How dare he put on airs in front of me?" Now he was in Yanjin and his status and influence was comparable to Lu Lishuan's in the past. Many young masters of famous families were around him. He is the nephew of the gambling king of Macau, He Hongchen, of course he thinks highly of himself. Bai Qiufei reminded gently. Bai Qiufei used to be arrogant, but after following Jiang Tian, he realized how vast the world was. He was no longer a frog at the bottom of the well. Instead, he was more mature, gentle and cautious. "Ha, it's just a bunch of mobs," Zhang Huchen said disdainfully. "He better talk to us obediently today, otherwise, I will slap him. Now that your father is the 3rd in command of the National Security Agency, you don't know how many people are watching your every word and action. Be careful," Zhang Yilin warned. Tang Yuyu and Zhao Qinzi, another female star with a mature and charming style, suddenly stared at Zhang Huchen with great admiration. It turned out that Zhang Shao had such a big background. The National Security Agency was not a small department. It was extremely sensitive. Do you think the Kai family is a good thing? Their foundations are dirty. Zhang Huchen snorted coldly. He'd better not provoke me today. Otherwise, I won't say get rid of He Hongchen, but at least get rid of the power of the Kai family. Business is business. Don't use your father's privilege. Zhang Yilin said coquettishly, "If you spread it to Jiang Tian's ears, he will skin you alive." "Yilin, don't talk nonsense. I didn't do anything. Aren't I just complaining?" Hearing the name of Jiang Tian, Zhang Huchen's face suddenly turned pale with fright. Like a deflated ball, he waved his hand and said. Tang Yuyu and Zhao Qinzi were stunned again, and great curiosity surged in their hearts. Tang Yuyu asked in a low voice, first sister, who is Jiang Tian? Is Zhang Dashao scared like this? Haha, that's a godlike man, Li Huiyan smiled mysteriously, full of fascination. Suddenly, the door of the box was pushed open. A young man in a colorful shirt, with pride written all over his face, accompanied by two middle-aged men in suits and leather shoes, walked into the box arrogantly. Young Master Kai, nice to meet you. Bai Qiufei came forward with red wine and took the initiative to shake hands. Although Zhang Huchen looked down on this guy, he also got up according to business etiquette and said with a smile, Young Master Kai, it's not easy to see you. But the second young master of the Kai family turned a blind eye to them. Instead, he turned his head and stared at the four girls present, as if he were going to the store to choose pheasants. He looked back and forth, his eyes were wretched, and he smiled evilly. Ha, Zhang Shao, young Master Bai, if I knew you were going to send me women, how could I wait until now? Kai Xiaofei smiled strangely as he stared greedily at the charming Li Huiyan. He then walked into the room. Zhang Huchen heard the words, frowned fiercely, and his face was unhappy. The Zhang family had Jiang Tian's protection, so they didn't need to send women to him. Young Master Kai, that's a bit too much. Bai Qiufei's face also stiffened, and then he forced a smile. Li Huiyan was Jiang Tian's old classmate. She was the most popular girl in the company, and even he had to treat her like a bodhisattva. This kid was too arrogant. The host and the guests sat down and chatted while eating. Young Master Kai tried his best to show off, and his pair of triangular eyes sized up the four girls' beautiful breasts and legs. Young Master Kai swirled the wine in his glass elegantly and said proudly, Young Master Bai, Young Master Zhang, I don't think there is such a luxurious club in China. Did you notice the huge difference between the mainland and Hong Kong after your visit to Hong Kong? You call this a club? Zhang Huchen wanted to laugh. He didn't need to look at the people, just the skyscrapers in Hong Kong already told him how crowded the place was. The actual population density was 3 times higher than that of Yanjin and Zhonghai. In such a small place, it was impossible to expect the palaces, quiet courtyards, and small bridges to flow like in Beijing. Most of the so-called mansions in Hong Kong were 3 bedrooms in a 100 square meters apartment in a prime location. Even so, Kai Xiaofei, who didn't know the development of China, still looked at Zhang Huchen and Bai Qiufei as if they were country bumpkins. He talked about the prosperity of Hong Kong and Macau, bragging about his luxurious life and despising the backwardness of China. Bai Qiufei wanted to buy the ATV peacefully, so he tried to control his emotions and nodded with a smile. Zhang Huchen wanted to beat him up a few times. But when he thought about how Jiang Tian would come later and if he were to fight, he might be punished by Jiang Tian again. Thus, he sneered and drank his wine. I heard that the public toilets in China are all dry toilets without toilets or sewers, is that true? When Kai Xiaofei said this, Bai Qiufei almost collapsed and Zhang Huchen almost flipped the table. People in Hong Kong were jokingly called Hong Kong farmers and Hong Kong cowards when they went to China. But what was ridiculous was that Kai Xiaofei's understanding of China was still in the 50s and 60s. What an idiot! Famous clans produce ambitious and ruthless people, but they also produce trash. Bai Qiufei suddenly felt that he was asking for a meeting with this guy again and again. What was there to talk about with this kind of trash? Bai Qiufei shook his head and drank the wine in the cup. He put the wine cup on the table and said coldly, Young Master Kai, if you think the time is not ripe for our cooperation, then I won't disturb you, I still have something to do, let's talk again when we have the chance. Bai Qiufei didn't wait for his reaction, he stood up and left. Zhang Huchen pointed at him and said disdainfully, ATV can't even pay your salary. Why are you still pretending to be a big shot? The 4 girls who couldn't stand Kai Xiaofei's disgusting eyes quickly got up and followed him. Kai Xiaofei was slightly stunned. He didn't learn how to be a shrewd person from his parents, so his face immediately turned red. Anger and dissatisfaction were written all over his face as he said coldly, Young Master Bai, Young Master Zhang, aren't you in too much of a hurry? Fine, you can leave first if you have something urgent to do, but let Miss Li Huiyan stay and have a meal with me. We still have a chance to talk about our cooperation. Young Master Kai wants to sleep with me. Li Huiyan stopped in her tracks and sneered, her face full of disdain. She had been in the entertainment circle for a long time, and she knew that there were all kinds of filthy things under the glamorous clothes of this circle. But ever since Bai Chofei knew about her relationship with Jiang Tian, he had never let her suffer any grievances. Whether it was in China, Hong Kong, South Korea, or Japan, no one dared to disrespect her. Ha, Miss Li, you are very clear-minded. Kai Xiaofei excitedly slapped his thigh and laughed. Zhang Huchen and Bai Chofei's face darkened. It seemed that this kid was courting death. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.